now. Happy Monday afternoon. Welcome back from the weekend. This is 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis, and our summer intern, Trenton Kraxner, all here with you today. Plenty of Royals baseball to get to following a celebratory weekend and a victorious weekend as well, sweeping away the slumping Oakland A's. Remember when they weren't that bad? Well,
20 in the 2010s.
Well, like the start of this year,
I would say this year they weren't the worst team in the league for a little bit.
They're
still not.
Yeah, they're not the worst team in the league. I would say they weren't offensively bad for a while. It's getting there though. They're really not good.
The Royals pitcher made them look pretty offensively bad.
Yeah, their offense looked quite bad. To take your joke and make it worse. Great weekend, though, overall for the Royals.
2 times I purposely misunderstood you. We're only a minute into the week. I think we're off to a great start.
Royals sweep the A's away. We'll talk specifically about how good the pitching has been. And we'll get to Seth Lugo in particular coming up in the 4 o'clock hour today. It's from last week, so it doesn't include his most recent start. But Russell Dorsey from MLB Network said that his favorite dark horse candidate to win the Cy Young right now might be the Royals' number 2 starter, Seth Lugo. We'll talk about how much validity that claim has coming up in the 4 o'clock hour today. We do have some Chiefs notes to get to as well. OTAs begin today. Rashee Rice, according to reports, he is there. What sort of insurance do the Chiefs still need if he misses, maybe not the start of the year, but maybe a latter part of the season? We'll also get to a list from NFL.com about the most vulnerable defending division champions in the NFL. Where do the Chiefs fall? Do not think that hard about this. PFF came up with their list of the top 25 players under 25. Are there any Chiefs that make that list? We will get to that. Some transfer portal news from the weekend, specifically when it comes to KU basketball. We will get to that. Our 580 Sports Talk headlines. And who should be in the upcoming College Football 25 video game? Who should be the highest rated KU and K-State players this year? We'll discuss that coming up later on in the show. We'll, of course, get to the playoff roundup, our 580 Sports Talk headlines. We'll recap the weekend with the good, the bad, and the ugly. And Matt Verderame is going to join us on the show today at the bottom of the 3 o'clock hour. That's all coming up today on 580 Sports Talk. We would love for you to be a part of the show. You can do so either on the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429. That's the Top City Metal Supply text line number. Or you can find us on YouTube. 580 Sports Talk is the name of our YouTube channel. You can also find the video stream on our website, 580wibw.com, on Facebook, WIBW News there, and on Twitter at 580 Sports Talk. How'd you enjoy the game this weekend?
Out at the K on Saturday?
Yeah.
It was cool. So they drew 24,000 plus on Friday night for the 2014 team reunion. 22,000 on Saturday night. Looked like just over 20,000, if I'm remembering right, on Sunday afternoon. And I have been going to Royals games fairly consistently from 2017 to now, whether it was in an official capacity or not. I've gone to a handful of games, ranging from like 1 or 2 a year to like 9 or 10 a year since 2017.
Mm-hmm.
I have not heard the K like that since I have been going regularly to games, since I've been here covering the team in the capacity in which I cover them now. Great atmosphere, dialed in crowd. And even though like there's certainly room for attendance to grow, and I'm not going to be the person that sits behind a microphone and says, shame on you for not filling Kauffman Stadium, because look, your entertainment dollar only goes but so far. Some of you are maybe upset with the Royals for whatever reason, whether it's they're not on TV, whether it's the whole stadium thing. Like, I understand if that's not how you want to spend your entertainment dollar, is schlepping out to Kauffman Stadium, paying the $20 or whatever for parking and going to a game. I get it. I'm not going to fan shame here. But I will tell you that the people who did make it through the gates at the K this weekend, they were fired up and they're starting to believe. And why not? 10 games over 500 on May 20th. 29 wins. They didn't win their 29th game till late July last year. It is time to, if you were slow for whatever reason, to really get on board with the Royals. They are not without their flaws, And look, we have to talk about them every day. So the flaws come up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They are not without their flaws, but this is a good baseball team. This is a competitive baseball team, and they're going to hang around for a long time in this American League Central race this season. And this weekend was not just fun from a nostalgic sense to see HDH and Hosmer and Moustakas and all the gang and Ned Yost on Friday night, and Davis and Holland throwing out the first pitches when their bobbleheads were given away on Saturday and Sunday. But it was also fun from a here and now, we've got a winning ball club sort of capacity as well. So long answer to your question, but yes, Saturday, I felt something in that ballpark that I have not felt in that ballpark since I have been on staff at WIBW.
It's a fun team. I mean, it's fun, enjoyable baseball. It is. I think there are times when you look at some of the more old school styles of winning baseball where you say, man, like, you can win and not be the most pleasant to watch. I don't think you see that as much in baseball as you do in, say, basketball or even football, like college basketball, right? There are ways to win that are not pleasant. Virginia won a national championship with, 3 NBA or at least cup of coffee in the NBA players. Hunter is, he's in the NBA. He's a real
Hunter,
player.
Yeah, lottery pick. Yeah.
Jerome,
Kyle
Guy, they had a cup of coffee in the league. They had 3 guys who made it to the NBA on that team and were really not all that enjoyable to watch at all when they won a national championship or when they were the number 1 overall seed the year prior. There are other teams that play styles of basketball, even in the NBA, that are sometimes not super fun to watch. The NFL, you run into Iowa. They're the extreme example, but they are going to win 8 or 9 games every year, contend for a division title in the Big Ten West. They're getting rid of divisions, but you know what I'm talking about. And just miserable to watch, especially on offense. There are some NFL teams that are like that too. Baseball, it's not quite the same way. There are different ways to win, different ways you try to build your team, but some ways to win are more enjoyable than others. You know what's a really enjoyable way to win a baseball game? 6 or 7 good innings out of your starting pitcher 3 or 4 times through the rotation, like of your 3 of your 5 starters, 4 of your 5 starters can go 6, 7 good quality innings every time out. And he hit a bunch of doubles and triples and home runs and steal bases. The Royals, funny enough, they only stole 1 base. They only tried 1 steal all weekend, which is very un-Royalsy, but they get dudes on and they knock them in. Yesterday, in an 8-4 win, they went 4 for 8 with runners in scoring position. 3 for 8 when you were there on Saturday. Not so good. 3 for 13 on Friday in Friday's game, but you still got 3 hits with runners in scoring position. You still brought those guys around, and you hit a pair of home runs in that game.
It's not a lot of, fence building, building that picket fence on the score line with a 1 here and a 1 there and a 1 here and a 1 there. It's a lot of crooked numbers. Like when the Royals are a team that tends to strike offensively while the iron is hot. They are taking advantage of the opportunities they get, being aggressive about it. Like yesterday's game, saw a chance to break the game open, pinch hitting Vinny Pasquantino there to hit that 3-run triple to bust the game wide open in the 6th inning. He didn't get the start, rare off day for him. But when the Royals had an opportunity, they didn't say, you know what, we're not going to, if Vinny's our silver bullet off the bench, we're going to save that for later. No, they said, how about right now? How about right now in the 6th inning with the bags full, one of our best RBI guys, he's going to put the ball in play. How about right now for Vinny P pinch hitting? And he delivers the 3-run triple that effectively ends the baseball game. So a very opportunistic offense right now being led by, very much so, led by the top of their order. Michael Garcia, who we'll talk about a little bit more later on, had a great weekend. Bobby Witt Jr.'s doing his thing. Salvi's doing his thing. Pasquantino had a good weekend. It is not, again, a perfect offense. It is offensively the worst outfield in baseball, I believe, by certain measures. They certainly feel a bat short of being a real championship caliber lineup, maybe even 2 bats short, if we're being honest about it. But they are, again, finding ways to turn the scoring opportunities into those crooked number innings that then they're able to make stand up with the pitching and run prevention that they're getting on the other side.
Can I give you a And even in terms of roster construction, I don't think it's the same sort of thing. Like the Royals want to be a team, and they're kind of built to be a team that is going to get a couple of the guys on the top of the, like you get Michael Garcia on, Bobby Witt Jr., it theoretically moves him over, but Bobby is getting on even more often than Garcia is. And then you've got your guys 3, 4, 5 who are going to move them in, who are going to hit them in, score them, and Witt's going to get his RBI numbers too. He's a little bit different. He kind of is the wrench in my comparison here because he's one of the best shortstops in all of baseball. But it almost does remind me of a team that won a World Series, a total fluke World Series in the mid-2000s. I sort of think of that White Sox team where their number 2 hitter was like the ultimate table setter. Tadahito Iguchi's entire role was move Scott Podsednik from second to third base. That's literally all he did. Because it was Scotty Pods would single, would steal second, and then Iguchi would either bunt or ground out to get him to third base. Literally his entire role. So the comparison isn't perfect here, but you've got a guy at the top who is on base all the time and is going to get extra bases because he steals a lot. The Royals even have 2 of them now. And then you've got guys 3, 4, 5 who are going to bat them in. It was, for the White Sox in 2005, Captain Planet, Carl Everett, then Paul Konerko and Jermaine Dye. 2 dudes who hit 30-plus home runs. For the Royals, they've got Michael Massey at 5, Salvi at 4, Vinny P at 3. You've got all these dudes who are going to move them in to the point where you don't even need a ton at the bottom of the order because 1 through 5, you're always keeping the line moving. The White Sox called it small ball. The Royals don't, but it's sort of a similar thing.
Yeah, the whole keep the line moving ethos.
Yes, exactly.
That was the ethos of the 2015 World Series team. We're just going to keep passing the baton to the next hitter. Find a way to get on base. Mm-hmm. We're not going to clear the bags with the 2-run, 3-run home run. We've got to build our innings with singles. We've got to take advantage of the opportunities we get to drive that runner in from second base, to score that runner from third with less than 2 outs. And then when you do get that bottom of the order contribution, like they got on Saturday, Nelson Velasquez drove in a big run in the 6th inning, and then Kyle Isbell took 97 miles an hour on the first pitch he saw from a guy who's been one of the best relievers in the American League, Lucas Erceg, on Saturday night, and yacked it out to right center field for the home run. So when you get that contribution from the lower half of your order, then you get even harder to beat because the top of the order just keeps on showing up game after game. You're getting production from Perez or Pasquantino or Bobby Witt Jr. is doing something. Those guys are always in the middle of it.
And that's you mentioned Bobby Witt Jr. He's had kind of a tough go of it until this weekend. The last week or two, he had a pretty tough go of it when it comes to, going offers or striking out a few more times than he had anticipated. But when you can put everything together in one game, whether it be at different points of the game, I think that's where you win games. Is sometimes you're going to be good in the first part of the game. Sometimes your pitching is going to be good until, say, for one inning, like happened a lot from the bullpen.
The Matt Sauer innings this weekend. Yeah.
Like you just have to continue to just play and play and play, and eventually things will go for them. And that's kind of what's starting to happen. Yeah, they have the worst outfield hitting average in the league or whatever it is, but they're getting, if those guys are hitting, it's timely hitting when guys are on base and needing to do things, and they just continue to stack the wins up.
Was yesterday the perfect microcosm of the Kansas City Royals offense? The perfect microcosm. Michael Garcia, 2 hits. Bobby Witt Jr., 2 hits. Salvador Perez hit 3rd yesterday, 2 hits. Nelson Velasquez hit 4th. He went over. But then Freddie Fermin, 2 hits in the 5-hole. Your top 5 guys in the order all had a combined 8 hits. The bottom of it, 6 through 9, over for the day.
Except for
Pasquantino, a pinch hitter who normally hits in the top 5.
Pinch hitting in the 9 hole. It's like that meme you've seen, like the drawing of a horse where like the back end of it, the tail and the haunches look like professionally done. And then as you move towards the front of the horse, it looks like a 6-year-old drew it.
It looks like Gumby for the head. And
that's kind of the Royals lineup. As you go along, you get less productive. But they didn't need a ton from the offense this weekend because the starting pitching was so good. I know we mentioned that earlier.
Yeah.
But I want to get back to the combined pitching line for Cole Reagan, Seth Lugo, and Brady Singer over the weekend. 18 2/3 innings. So you're getting an average of 6 innings per start. That is big for a team that has not had a particularly deep bullpen so far this year. Your starters got to give you 6 if you want to have a chance to reel off wins like this. Reagan's went 7, Brady went 6, Lugo 5 2/3. I thought Quatrero should have left him out there and tried to finish the 6th inning, but I understand taking him out before he faced a batter who'd already taken him deep for a 3rd time. 18 and 2/3 innings for the starters, 14 hits and 3 walks. So less than a base runner per inning, 3 runs allowed, all earned, 26 strikeouts, including the 10 by Lugo in just 5 and 2/3 on Saturday. When you get starting pitching like that, your top 3 guys lined up at home on the weekend, you better sweep. And that's exactly what they found a way to do.
I mean, I think I'd put this top 3 rotation up against the best ones in the league right now.
They certainly pitch like it. I mean, you're looking at 3 guys who have really pitched at a high level. Lugo, one of the best ERAs in baseball, 1.79. Reagan's pitching much better than his ERA would suggest, one of the leaders in strikeouts in the American League. And Brady Singer striking out more guys than he ever has before. And back to his best self yesterday, the contact was all on the ground. His last start, there was a lot of line drives, a lot of fly balls. This was an outing where he got back down in the zone, got the ground balls, got the strikeouts, and was really effective. And I think his pitching really, really well. This is about as good as we've seen Brady Singer over a 10-start stretch at this time. And what the other thing I really want to stress, and it's so enjoyable when you're like really sitting to watch a game, 3 walks by the starting pitchers.
Awesome.
In 18 and 2/3.
Amazing.
Because this is, as we have talked about, a really excellent defensive team. When Kyle Isbell's in center field, you're playing one of the best defensive center fielders in the game. Bobby Witt Jr. is one of the most valuable defensive players, regardless of position, in all of baseball. Michael Garcia can pick it at third. Michael Massey is a strong defender at second base. Run prevention is where this team really, really shines. When I was at the game with my wife on Saturday, and she asked me, so why is it that this team all of a sudden is so good, where last year was so very bad? Like, is it just 1 or 2 guys? Is it all the new players? And I said, the thing that I think that they're really good at, that they're hanging their hat on right now, their stars are playing like stars, but it's pitching and defense. It's pitching and it's the run prevention. That all goes together, pitching and defense. Run prevention. That's where this team really, really shines. And if they're going to be contenders deep into this season, it's going to be centered around that run prevention.
Do you know how many pitchers started at least 3 games for the Royals last year?
Oh, at least 3 for the Royals last year? Oh, like 9 or 10?
11. 11 different players started at least 3 games. Here is according to Baseball Reference, which breaks it down in terms of like how many players play in a certain spot, certain number of times, only 4 guys cracked the quote-unquote regular rotation for the Royals last year. Jordan Lyles, Brady Singer, Zach Greinke, Cole Ragans. Ragans was awesome late in the season. He only pitched 12 games for the Royals. Jordan Lyles was terrible. Zach Greinke, God love him, Royals great, awful last year. Brady Singer was not good. He had a 5.52 ERA. His fielding independent better, but still in the mid-4s. Not exactly great. Here's the rest of the list. Alec Marsh, who's way better this year than he's ever been before. Daniel Lynch IV, Ryan Yarborough, Brad Keller, who could not stop walking dudes. He was addicted to
Completely lost the strike zone last year.
Angel Zerpa, Austin Cox. All those dudes got 3 starts. Mike Mayers made multiple starts last year. James MacArthur started 2 games last year.
Yeah, and an opener.
As
capacity.
an opener.
Yeah. That's how down bad the Royals were last year, that they were using that opener strategy quite often.
Carlos Hernandez started 4 games for you last season. Chris Bubich had 3 starts, then got hurt last year. So I missed one. There were 12.
On the comeback trail.
Yeah, he is.
3 scoreless innings at AA Northwest Arkansas on the weekend.
That would be great to see him get back. So the fact that you are getting, frankly, even on the low end, if you're only getting 5 innings from Marsh or every other start from Brady Singer, you are getting 5 to 7 innings every single game so far this year, where you feel like, yeah, we're in it. We're in it. Maybe we have to come back from down a run late, or we are trying to hold on to a 1-run lead. But for 5 to 7 innings every single game, you are saying we are right here in this game. We are bare minimum 50-50 a chance to win this game. Last year, how often was that the case? 12 starts for Cole Ragans.
And it's the point I made during the offseason when they signed Seth Lugo, when they signed Michael Wacha. These guys, well, Lugo's pitching like one, but you don't sign those guys necessarily to go out, win 20 games, go to the All-Star game, win the Cy Young Award. But just having baseline competence, a higher floor in your pitching rotation, 4 guys going into this year that they knew they could turn to and hand the ball every 5 days and know they're going to get a pro's effort and they're going to get some solid work from those guys stands in such stark contrast to what you just laid out that it was last year. Mm-hmm. And on a psychological level, when you're an everyday player and you go to the ballpark and you look at the starting pitching matchup and it's an opener for you and it's the other team's got a dude throwing 99 with a slider who's going to go 6. You're going up against like a Tarek Skubal, let's say, or a Shane Bieber, and you're going into that matchup and your starting pitcher is 39-year-old Zach Greinke or Jordan Lyles, giving up 2 home runs every time he pitches. That psychologically is hard to overcome. That psychologically is a feeling of dread before you even get started. A feeling like, oh man, if we're going to win today, it's going to be because we score a bunch of runs. I'm going to have to get 3 hits. I'm going to have to hit a home run. I'm going to have to carry us across the finish line as an offensive player because we're going to struggle to get the 27 outs we need to win a baseball game. Now with these guys, it feels like the offense just has that freedom to relax. Not relax isn't the word, but to know that they don't have to be perfect to win a baseball game, that they can win on the backs of their run prevention and that the offense just needs to come up big when the opportunities present themselves. Drive in the run when it's at third with less than 2 outs. Just take care of that business. You don't need to hit a 6-run home run to go win a game because Jordan Lyles just gave up 5 in the first inning. And you know he's going to pitch a complete game anyway because there's nobody else.
Right.
It's easier to play. It's easier to show up and play ball with confidence when you have starting pitching like this. It changes everything. And I think that has been the most obvious change for this Royals team through 48 games.
The only negative I want to bring up from the weekend, the only one, and I think this was also the Royals blog and Twitter content machine also glommed onto this because everything else was good from the weekend pretty much for the Royals. The bullpen has overall been pretty solid. I know people have gripes about MacArthur because he's still trying to figure things out. Here's a good. Before I even get to the bad, here's a good. Do you know the last time Will Smith gave up a run?
It's been a while. Been about a month, hasn't it?
He's gone 9 straight outings, 1 inning each, without giving up a run. 9 straight. You'll take that. Yeah. You will happily take that. The overall numbers, they still don't look good because the start of the season was so bad. 9 straight outings. This is why guys like this deserve a little bit more leeway when you are still trying to figure these things out. If you had, that bad stretch from Will Smith in August when you're trying to get to the playoffs, okay, maybe you shorten up the leash. But this time of year, this type of team, you're willing to give a guy like that a little bit of grace, and he has been really good for the last month. Really, really good.
And you're just going to have to ride the hot hand in the middle innings a little bit because you're setting the table for the back end. Like it unfolded the way that I think Matt Quatrero would like it to unfold on Saturday when you go and get Lugo. It's John Schreiber for an inning, and he came in to put out the fire in the 6th, then gave up a run in the 7th, but it was on 3 singles. Sometimes that's going to happen. Angel Zerpa is emerging. Zerpa faced 3 right-handed hitters in the 8th inning in that game on Saturday night. I believe it was a 1-run game at the time because I think the home run by Isbell, was that the 6th or the 7th? That might have been the 7th. So it was a 2-run game at the time. Zerpa comes in that spot, faces 2 pinch hitters, so it ends up being 3 right-handers and sets them all down, no problem. 1, 2, 3 inning to build the bridge to MacArthur. And yeah, MacArthur been a little wobbly, and he gives up a couple of cheap hits to start that outing on Saturday, but he gets the strikeouts of 2 of Oakland's best hitters. They're 2 and 3 hole hitters. Gets big strikeouts to end that ball game. I think that's going to do wonders for his confidence moving forward. You're going to have to ride the peaks and valleys when you've got a first-year big leaguer as your closer. But I think, again, because MacArthur has done so well to strike batters out and not walk batters, that gives him a chance to have some pretty high peaks.
We have to get to real quick, Spence. We have to get to a commercial break here. We've gone a little long. That's good. Lots of fun Royal stuff. That's a good thing. We're going to come back. I do want to get to Matt Sauer because he's got to stay on the big league roster because he was a Rule 5 guy. But man, he's making it kind of hard right now. Also, Michael Garcia.
Actually, we have breaking news. He's not staying on the roster. He has been designated for assignment.
Okay. Perfect timing. We're going to break that down coming up on the other side of this break. We're just getting started on a Royals heavy day here on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan, Dan, and Spencer here with you on 580 Sports Talk. Trenton Craxton on the other side of the glass as well, keeping us on the air today. Good little segue for me to want to talk about Matt Sauer. We're going to get to Michael Garcia here, too. It's not all going to be negative. A lot of good vibes to this Royals team. So we'll get to him in a minute.
You said, get that bum off the big league roster. The Royals are like, bet. How about before the commercial break?
JJ, you listening? JJ Picola, if you are a listener to the show, text in, let me know. So Matt Sauer has been DFA. He was the Rule 5 pick this offseason. I mean, look, he's been really bad. I understand wanting to give him talk about guys who have a long leash. A Chris Stratton, a Will Smith, veterans, been there, done that, guys who have won championships before. You give them some leeway to try to figure it out. Matt Sauer, you give him room to figure it out because he was a Rule 5 draft pick. You want to try with that.
And for those, again, a quick explainer on what the Rule 5 draft is for those who may not be familiar. It is players who have a certain number of minor league years, a certain amount of minor league service time, and have not been added to their team's 40-man roster. They are eligible then for the Rule 5 draft. The draft order goes worst record to best. If you draft a player in the Rule 5 draft, you have to immediately add them to your 40-man roster, and they have to stay on your big league roster for the duration of the season. And then after the season ends, you can option them down to the minors if you want to, but you have to keep them on the 26-man roster. Now, if you're a team that doesn't have designs on contending, you can take a Rule 5 player, kind of take a flyer, and just sort of see how it goes. You can stash them a little bit. They can be your mop-up guy, and that's the role that Sauer has played. The Royals have had some Rule 5 guys in recent memory. Sometimes they turn out real well, like for a little while, Brad Keller.
Brad Keller was a huge hit.
Yes, that was a Rule 5 success story.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't. Who remembers Birch Smith?
I do, actually.
Hey, he's back in the bigs.
Yeah.
I will give you $5 if you can tell me what team he's pitching for.
The Rockies.
No.
It's a decent guess.
It is a decent guess. No, I saw him in a box score the other day. I was like, that can't be that B. Smith, can it? He is currently a member of the Miami Marlins.
Oh, no, that sounds right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, pitched the last 2 years overseas. Anyhow, the Royals went into this season thinking they could probably be all right with that roster spot tied up in a Rule 5 guy and just live with the results. Live with there being this game is out of hand. He's going to strictly be a mop-up guy.
Yeah.
Well, his performance over the weekend showed can't keep the ball in the ballpark. He's really struggling over his last handful of appearances. Now, the Royals could, I think, and I might be wrong on this, but typically how it works, sometimes there will be a team that they make the Rule 5 pick and then they try to negotiate a trade with the organization that the player originally came from. So in Matt Sauer's case, that'd be the Yankees. The Royals could engineer a trade with the Yankees to try and retain Sauer and then have the opportunity to then send him down to the minor leagues, keep him in their organization. Or another team could claim him, but then they'd have to put him on their 40-man roster if, as now, he's been designated for assignment. But this is another sign that the Royals now believe that, hey, this is a serious season. We have serious plans to win a lot of ball games, and we're not going to do it with one roster spot being taken up by a guy that we can't pitch unless we're winning by 10 runs or losing by 10 runs.
Yeah, and you got to move on from guys like that. And in his last 5 outings, 5 in the month of May, 5 innings pitched, 11 earned runs. I mean, that's not getting it done. You can't live with that. Again, on a team that is better. If you were going to suck like last year, if you were going to be that bad again and you were going to have 9 wins at this point instead of 29 wins, yeah, you can live with that. But no, you had to move on. So there's the only downside this weekend. Everything else really positive, including for Michael Garcia, who was awesome to start the year, as we know, then went through that stretch where he was really bad, had, 8 games in a row or something where he didn't have a single hit and was playing every day. In the last, month, 28 games, he's batting over 300. On base, 347, slugging 440, hit the home run this weekend. He's not striking out a ton, not walking a ton either, but he's a Royal. It happens.
They have a type.
Yeah, they do. But even that type has been eschewed a little bit in this season with this year's roster. He's hitting the ball really hard. He steals bases effectively, 11 for 11, including the only Royal stolen base of the weekend. He took third base, in fact, in the game yesterday. He has been really good. Rustin Dodd, who covered the Royals for years, Kansas City guy, KU guy. We know Rustin Dodd quite well. He put this out on Twitter yesterday. The Royals are in probably 29-19, and the biggest reasons are Bobby Witt Jr., Salvador Perez in their rotation. But I think Maikel Garcia gives them a level of sheer swag they haven't had in years. Fun player. That is the exact kind of guy you like at the top of your order. And this isn't, I know I'm cursing out someone who certain Royals fans will love no matter how badly he actually played in reality. This is not an Alcides Escobar thing where you leave him at the top and
It's more superstition than anything.
it's literally building your order based on vibes. Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
we didn't talk about vibes in this way in 2015, but Alcides Escobar was a vibes player more than literally anything else.
It's so true. The whole thing was,
Yeah.
if he swings at the first pitch, we're going to win.
Which, like, in terms
And then
of
he hit
logic,
an inside the park
Yeah.
home run on the first pitch of a World Series.
in terms of logic, doesn't work. Like, it's just riddled with fallacies. But in terms of actual outcomes, you ride the wave until that wave comes crashing into the shore. Maikel Garcia's actually been good, and that is the exact kind of player you want at the top of this lineup. Because again, he gets on base pretty frequently. 34.7% of the time over the last 28 games, he's getting on base. And then you've got a superstar right behind him and a really good number 3, number 4 combo behind him. And then 5, Michael Massey. He's done a good job cleaning up the slop after that. That top of the order has been that good, largely because your leadoff hitter has been this good.
You know, we got a little stirred up over his home runs to start the season. He hit 3 in the first week after hitting 4 all of last season. He's up to 5 now. So obviously his power has increased this season. But I think his profile over the last month is starting to kind of resemble what he's going to be at his best, which is a player who is, it's an average driven profile because there's not a lot of walk in him, but he's getting smarter about which pitches he swings at. He's in the 87th percentile when it comes to chase rate, according to Baseball Savant. That means he's really good at not swinging at pitches out of the strike zone. He's very good at, when he swings at pitches, they are strikes. And he's still making pretty hard contact. He's in the 79th percentile in average exit velocity and the 76th percentile in hard hit percentage. So top quarter of the league in terms of hitting the ball hard. I think his profile is a little more like 35, 40 doubles than it is 20, 25 home runs. But I think that's a good fit for the top of this order. Get guys on base ahead of Bobby Witt Jr. so that he sees some more fastballs, so that he gets on base, and then Salvador Perez sees more fastballs, and Vinny Pasquantino sees more fastballs, because you have to worry about the speed threats that are on base. I like his fit at the top of the order. It's not the traditional high on base percentage. Like if you're playing Stratomatic, you don't put this card at the top of the batting order. If you're playing out of the park baseball, you don't put this card or this player at the top of your batting order. But in a human game of baseball, I like this guy as the igniter, and he's played really, really well. His strikeouts have gone steadily down since the season began, and he's starting to roll. And as he goes, that's more RBI opportunities for the big boys.
He's starting to roll, but what is he going to be? Like, what should these sample sizes is going to be his whole
Well, like I
season?
just told you, I think this the last 28 games is kind of his. I think this is his profile. I think this is kind of starting to settle into what it's going to be when he's at his best. And everybody ebbs and flows, but this is going to be, I think, this weekend was a pretty good example of what he's going to be when he's going really good, which is, you know, the doubles pop, maybe a home run here and there. Like he's probably a 10, 15 home run guy, and that's probably fine. Like I don't think the Royals, and everybody needs home runs, but I think the best version of Maikel Garcia probably isn't somebody selling out for 25 to 30 home runs. I think he's starting to come into his own and figure out what approach serves him best.
If you've got a guy at the top of your order who is going to, and yes, if you talk about his on-base profile, if it's mostly average driven, fine, not a problem, because he's going to hit a bunch of singles for you. You can live with a singles and doubles hitter at the top of your order, a guy who's not going to hit a ton of home runs if he's going to take a bunch of bases, take them efficiently, and is also getting those singles and doubles all the time. You're very happy with that. Plus, he's been good in the field. He is one of 5 Royals this season who has an outs above average number. That comes from baseball's MLB StatCast. He's got one of 5 Royals with 2 or more outs above average. That's really good. Really, really good. In fact, that means you've got 5 fielders in the top 75 in all of baseball, regardless of position. Can you name the 5? The 5 Royals who have 2 or more outs above average? I bet you can get 4 of them.
Isbell,
Kyle Isbell. He's actually last of the 5. Or I'm sorry, 4th of the 5.
Witt.
Third. Bobby Witt's number 1. He's number 2 in all of baseball with 9.
Garcia.
Michael Garcia's got 2.
Vinny got 2.
Vinny Pasquantino's got 2. He's 5th of 5.
And
number 2 is hilarious.
Number 2.
By percentage points, he's ahead of Kyle Isbell.
I'm trying to work my way around the diamond here. Massey, I don't think has played enough games. Is it?
Massey's got 1. Yeah.
I don't think it's Sal.
It's not Sal.
It ain't Renfro.
It's not Renfro.
Process elimination has to be Velasquez.
It is not Nelson Velasquez.
No?
Nope.
Who am I missing? Hampson?
Garrett Hampson, by percentage points, has more outs above average than Kyle Isbell.
See the route he took to a ball yesterday? Cost Singer is only run.
Yeah, it did.
That's ridiculous.
The stats
Sometimes the numbers lie.
Sometimes the numbers lie. They're good, but they're not quite perfect. We've got Royals baseball against the Tigers tonight, tomorrow, and Wednesday. All games you'll be able to hear here on 580 WIBW. I want to send you to a game. We should celebrate the Royals being good. So caller number 3, you've got a family 4-pack of tickets to the K tomorrow night. 6:40 first pitch. So call in 785-272-9429. Caller number 3, we've got a family 4-pack of Royals tickets for you. 785-272-9429. We'll give that away during the commercial break. Then we've got some Chiefs to get to coming up next segment on 580 Sports Talk. Congratulations to Joe. He is the winner of our family 4-pack of Royals tickets for tomorrow's game against the Detroit Tigers. 6:40 first pitch for that one. 6:40 first pitch tonight as well. Tomorrow, we will have tickets to give away for Wednesday's finale. You're going to want to be listening for that one because do you know who the pitching matchup is for Wednesday?
Should be a good one.
Tariq Skubal and Cole Reagans.
Ace versus Ace. That is a huge one. Trenton and I were talking about this in the office today. The end of this month, pretty important end of the month for the Royals because the schedule for June is brutal. There are a lot of first place teams and just a lot of good teams in general. Padres, Guardians, Mariners, Yankees, Dodgers, all in a row with one off day in the middle. Then the rest of the month, A's, Rangers, Marlins, some winnable games in there. Then you end the month with the Guardians as well in June. So getting wins in May, a really big deal. We'll try to send you to the K again coming up on tomorrow's show. Dan, we got a text to the Top City Metal Supply text line we wanted to get to.
Yeah, we did. A text from the 785 asking, how many All-Stars do the Royals have, in your opinion? Not who will actually end up being All-Stars. How many do we think right now are All-Stars for the Royals? I will say 3 and a possible.
Look at that. I have the
Yeah.
same. I was going to say 3 or 4, and
Yeah.
we're all in agreement. Witt.
Yep.
With
All in agreement. Lugo.
Yep.
All in agreement on Salvi.
Sal, yeah.
Salvi, and then
Sal's best offensive catcher in baseball.
yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Well, okay. Apologies to William Contreras of the Milwaukee Brewers,
American
who's having a great year. But yeah, best offensive catcher in the
He'll-
American League. I'll
He's
go with
going to
that.
start in the American League again.
That is going to be, by the way, when he does make the All-Star game, because he is going to make the All-Star
Yes,
game.
he is.
That's 9 All-Star games.
I'm so excited for this July when we once again have the Is he a Hall of Famer discussion. I'm very excited for
I
it.
think Annie Rogers did a story about
And Rogers.
Ann Rogers did a story about how he's getting better as he gets older. Last week, I think I saw it in the MLB app.
It's true. The numbers flesh that out.
His walk rate, his career walk rate is 3.7% of the time he comes to the plate, he walks. This season, he's walking 7.6% of the time. Who doubles their walk rate as a 34-year-old? Who does that?
Mm-hmm. Salvador Perez.
Also, he's striking out less than he has since the championship year, 2015. And framing pitches better than he has in years.
Yeah. He has so far this season walked 14 times in 46 games. Last year, he walked 19 times in 140 games.
All I'm saying is I will be happy to lead the dialogue that actually I would have rather have had Salvador Perez than Yadier Molina for the bulk of both of their careers.
Yeah.
And Yadier Molina is going to walk into the Hall of Fame because the baseball writers are morons, but Yadier Molina gets that St. Louis mystique all over him when all he really was Benito Santiago with good teammates.
Salvador Perez never walked out on his team to coach a Puerto Rican basketball team.
Yeah, go coach basketball.
Dude, he literally walked out. He never got a
baseball stuck to his chest protector either.
Yeah.
So he had all kind of illegal gunk and slime on it.
Yeah,
But enough about the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah, Salvi's going to make it this year. Is Cole Reagans the maybe?
Yes.
For you? Because he was for me.
Yeah, another starting pitcher. Yeah, Reagans or Singer. I mean, it's hard to get multiple starting pitchers into the All-Star game, but both guys pitching at a pretty high level for me. Right now, he's got the win-loss record and the shiny ERA. That's the kind of stuff that gets people's attention. And because fans don't vote for the pitchers, that's a player vote. Players look at that stuff and they see the wins and they see the ERA. They say, yeah, that guy's an all-star. So yeah, that's it. That's the list. I think they've got a very real chance to get 3. And listen, I don't know when voting goes live for this. I don't know if it has yet or not. I don't believe it has. But if there's one thing I know about Kansas City fans, when you've got a chance to put a bunch of your guys in the All-Star game, you go and put a bunch of your guys in the All-Star game.
They are going to stuff the ballot box like it is a banana republic. It is going to be outrageous. You know, the funny or sad thing, if you eliminated Vinny Pasquantino's first 10 games of the season, there's a very real case for first baseman, 860 OPS, slugging over 500 since April 10th. Like, there's a very real argument. I don't know that he would get in just based on those merits. He probably would just based on Royals fan voters. But after April 9th, his batting average tanked to 108. His OPS was 322. Since then, 275 batting average, 343 on base, 517 slug. Like, he's been legitimately a stud ever since then. He just had a really bad first 10 days back. after he missed 2/3 of last season.
Yeah.
He's been absolutely awesome. I think the Royals have a very real chance of getting 4.
Christopher in the YouTube live chat asks if Bobby Witt Jr. has a chance to start at shortstop for the American League, given that Gunnar Henderson has had a terrific start to his season. I think he leads the American League in home runs. It's him or Kyle Tucker. I know he went yard again yesterday. What's he up to? 14, 15?
Gunnar
He's up to
Henderson.
15.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think him and Tucker are tied unless Tucker hit one yesterday and I missed it. That's going to be tough to overcome, the fact that there's another guy playing the same position that is among the league leaders in home runs. But I guess we'll see. I guess you better rock the vote is what I'm telling Royals fans. Go rock that vote. You all almost got Omar Infante to start an all-star game. I believe in you. I believe fully in Royals fans. If you want Bobby Witt Jr. to start the all-star game, by God, Bobby Witt Jr. going to start the all-star game.
Yeah, you know that's true. We will get to some Kansas City Chiefs talk here at the top of the 3 o'clock hour. We'll also talk to Matt Verderame coming up next hour, and we'll recap the weekend with the good, the bad, and the ugly. We'll get to some more Royals later on. We'll preview tonight's series opener against the Detroit Tigers. It'll be Michael Wacha on the bump. Also, Seth Lugo. Is he getting enough attention for how good he has been to start this season so far? Also taking your texts to the Top City Metal Supply text line and your comments on the 580 Sports Talk YouTube stream as well. All that and much more is coming up after the news right back here on 580 Sports Talk on 580 WIBW. now, 3 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk coming your way. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis, and our summer intern, Trenton Craxner, all here with you for this 3 o'clock hour of the show and the rest of the show. We're with you until 6 o'clock today. Busy 3 o'clock hour. We've got some Kansas City Chiefs to get to momentarily. We'll talk plenty of NFL with Matt Verderame at the bottom of the hour, our weekly chat with the Sports Illustrated NFL staff writer. We'll also recap the weekend with the good, the bad, and the ugly. Your texts are welcome on the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429. And we will also take your comments on YouTube. 580 Sports Talk on YouTube is where you can find us. Video stream also live on Twitter at 580 Sports Talk, on 580WIBW.com, and also on Facebook, WIBW News, the name of the page there. A lot of breaking news for you here. This actually from YouTube. I did not see this, so shout out to our guy Lenny Dawson on YouTube. Former Royal, who we actually brought up last hour, Brad Keller. He's been DFA'd.
Did he make it back to the bigs with the White Sox? Did they ever end up calling him up?
Yeah, he was pitching. I think he started a game a week or two ago.
Wow. He sure did.
Yeah, 2 starts, 2 games finished, 5 appearances, 16 2/3 innings.
Hey, stop walking, guys. He did not, however, stop giving up home runs. Oh, my God. 5 home runs allowed in 16 2/3.
Yeah, the ERA under 5.
Well,
the fielding independent, 6.5.
In fairness, 4 of those were to the Yankees 2 days ago. So
makes sense why they decided to designate him for assignment. Yeah, it's tough. That's tough. The home run numbers, 2.7 home runs per 9. Is that bad?
It's not what you want.
No, it's not. His walk numbers were tied for the second best of his career in terms of walks per 9.
I'm glad he's found the strike zone, like legitimately, and wish him the best moving forward because there are few athletes, like classes of athletes, that I feel more pity for than the pitcher who loses the strike zone. There are few things worse than my entire life and entire livelihood is based on putting this ball where I want to put it. And now I can't do that anymore. And I don't know if I can ever do it again. Like that's a terrifying ordeal to have to go through. And certainly anybody who has to go through that, you're always rooting for him to figure it out.
Who signs him, A's or Marlins? Who gets to him first?
No, I don't think the Rockies need him that. I was going to say, no.
Pitcher who can't find the zone in Colorado, you say?
He's a sinker baller who gives up a bunch of home runs. Perfect fit for Coors Field.
Yeah, no kidding. I think someone will sign him before the year's over, though. He's still got something left in the tank. When he wasn't missing the zone, he was pitching decently last year. Unfortunately, he was just always missing the zone. Other breaking news that came up right at the top of the hour, we heard about that this was coming down the pipe last Thursday during our Lewis Toyota High School whip around with Rick Peterson. Topeka High girls basketball has their new head coach.
And you're not going to believe it.
I sure didn't.
I didn't believe it either, but it comes from Rick Peterson. We know it's legit. Ron Slaymaker is the next head coach of the Topeka High girls basketball program. Yes, that Ron Slaymaker, as in Ron Slaymaker Court at White Auditorium, as in the former men's basketball coach at Emporia State, who just coached the last 3 years at Olpe, where he led the girls to back-to-back state tournament appearances over his 3-year tenure with the school. Ron Slaymaker taking over at Topeka High as the girls basketball coach.
3-time Hall of Famer. 3 different Hall of Fames that he has been elected to.
3 more Hall of Fames than I'll ever get into.
I mean, you've got a long way to go. You're not going to be 87 for quite a while.
That's true. I got a ways to go. The math is in agreement with you there.
Yeah, I'm sure he was not in any of these Hall of Fames at 37,
That's
36.
True. 37.
37? Yeah,
37.
Okay.
Yeah. Appreciate you going lower.
Yeah, I couldn't remember which one. I won't mention how old it will be when you have your birthday in September this year. Even so, twice your age, you still would not be 87 years old. So you've got plenty of time to be in
I got a whole half a century. Yeah.
Halls of Fame is the appropriate way to put that. Well, congrats to Coach Slaymaker. And we'll talk more about this on Thursday this week when we're joined by Rick Peterson of TopSports.news for the high school whip around. Some news and notes for the Kansas City Chiefs that I wanted to make sure we got to today. One, this from Adam Schefter of ESPN did report that Rashee Rice is in attendance at Chiefs OTAs, which began today. Not a surprise, but it's nice to have some sort of confirmation. He wouldn't have been the only notable wide receiver who missed OTAs. Justin Jefferson did not show up to Vikings OTAs. I can already envision Seth Kaiser's blog post over at Chief in the North about why it actually would make sense to trade a first-round pick for Justin Jefferson.
There, a certain vintage of 580 Sports Talk would have probably done a segment a week at least on what would it take to get Justin Jefferson? How would Justin Jefferson fit in the offense?
The 2019 iteration of the show. Can you imagine Justin Jefferson as your number 2 wide receiver next to Tyreek Hill? Who would be the number 2 receiver? And that would have sustained us for a week.
According to a New York Jets writer, Harrison Glasser, he was spotted in Florham Park, New Jersey over the weekend, which is where the Jets facility is.
Do we know this is a real person?
Yeah, is this one of those fake accounts?
Yeah, is this one of those things like, oh, this person was spotted at the Seattle airport? That is
Harrison
like a running
Glasser
joke?
at NY Jets TF Media, founder, owner, CEO, Take Flight Media, Jets writer, reporter, content creator, podcaster, lifelong diehard Jets fan.
And social studies teacher. Okay, so not like real media, but also not one of those
Glazer, Harrison Glazer.
So this isn't like ball sack sports or
No,
anything.
it's
Yeah. Adarn Schefter. He is not. So Rashee Rice, he's at Chiefs OTAs. Well, I think it's important to note, this has come up before on the show. Matt Derrick has mentioned this to us at least once, if not multiple times in the last few weeks. We're probably not getting an NFL suspension for Rashee Rice until all of his court proceedings are done. That could be sometime this summer, which is probably unlikely. That could be early in the NFL calendar. That could be late in the NFL calendar. We might end up in a situation where he ends up getting suspended in the middle of the season, like what happened to Willie Gay. Remember that? That is on the table here for Rashee Rice.
Where it's later in the season and he misses a round of the playoffs.
No, exactly what I'm saying. Yeah. We don't know when it's going to be. Just because you're suspended or you are potentially facing a suspension during the offseason does not mean you are going to be suspended at the start of the year. It could go into the season. So Rashee Rice, for now, with the Chiefs, it's business as usual. Off the field, obviously not business as usual for him. But I do think that is worth at least keeping in mind. If he's suspended 6 weeks, it might not be weeks 1 through 6. It might be weeks 6 through 11. It might be weeks 13 through 18 at the end of the year. We are not going to know until more is done in a court of law because he's not on the exempt list right now. I don't mean to completely relitigate a conversation we've already had a half a dozen times on this show about whether or not you need to bring in another receiver, but I do think it is another point in favor of that discussion or of that argument when you say, hey, he might be out weeks 1 through 6. He might be out the final 6 weeks of the season instead. I think it does make sense to at least consider having a little bit more insurance for him if you're going to lose him at any point during the year. That's all I'm saying, is that maybe it makes sense to add some sort of insurance. And it doesn't have to be a guy we've talked about, the high-end guy like a Michael Thomas, who's only going to play for 6 weeks anyway before he gets hurt. It doesn't have to be Hunter Renfrow, who at the very least is a name, adds a little bit of a different flavor to your offense. It could be someone we have not talked about at all to this point. Just another body so you have a little bit of insurance. I think that still would make a little bit of sense because you have no idea when a suspension could be coming down the pipe.
Yeah, and the Chiefs have gotten to where they've gotten over the last handful of years by being prepared for contingencies, by having their ducks in a row, not being caught off guard by anything that might happen. Like even last season, signing Charles Omenihu, knowing a suspension was coming and being prepared for the fact that this player was going to miss sometime, didn't know how much, didn't know when, but knew that they weren't going to have that player for a certain amount of time and made sure they were prepared to withstand that. I am sure that there will be some kind of contingency plan in place. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if that means bringing somebody from outside the organization or whether that is just having Mecole Hardman on speed dial and saying, Mecole, we can say what we want to say about Mecole Hardman. I think it's pretty clear he's pretty well liked at a bare minimum.
Yeah.
In at One Arrowhead Drive. If nothing else, just to have a body who knows the offense.
You know what you're getting.
Yeah. You know exactly how you have to use that player. I do. I'm starting to think
12 and 17 are both open in terms of numbers. It could be either one.
Yeah, you can take whatever number he wants again. Yeah, he can hand him the ball and tell him not to drop it, and maybe he'll comply, maybe he won't. I think there's value in that. Like,
Yeah.
I'm starting to think as the days go on and we don't see the Chiefs add, like, Tyler Boyd was out there for a pretty doable amount of money, and some other guys have been as well. Who was the other one? Zay Jones.
Zay Jones
was out there for a doable amount of money.
A different guy who had been with your team for the last couple of years was out there.
I sort of feel like the Chiefs are slow playing this with the knowledge that if we really need a 6 to 8 week contingency, we would rather have that be somebody that we know and who knows us, and who will know what to expect, that we can say, okay, we've dealt with you your whole entire career. So let's, or at least for a chunk of your career. So let's be real honest about what this is going to be and what your role in all of this is going to be.
That makes sense.
I think there's some value in that.
Honestly, I feel like you're right on, and that the longer and longer this goes, if there's going to be another addition, it probably is a guy who there's already some familiarity with, and there's probably kind of a handshake agreement. Like, same thing with Carlos Dunlap this past season, where sort of reading between the lines, hey, we don't know if we're going to need you, but if no one else is going to give you guaranteed money, wait for our phone call. Wait until you see an 816 number call you, and we will bring you back in. We've got interest. We just don't know if we have the spot right now. So it's something that at least is worth keeping an eye on. A few other things here. It's list season for NFL media.
We do love lists.
We love lists. We love grades. We love rankings.
Drafts.
Yes. We've got our own list of drafts that we're going to pull out later on in the summer. This is from Judy Batista from NFL.com. She's covered the NFL for a really long time. And she ranked all 8 division winners in terms of vulnerability. Who are the most vulnerable reigning division winners from this past season? Let's start with the team that is the least vulnerable. Don't think too hard about where the Chiefs land. They are 8th out of 8. She's got them as the least vulnerable team, least vulnerable division winner. And frankly, even if it wasn't because the Chiefs just won the Super Bowl and they are the best team in the NFL, look who else is in the division. The Chargers have the quarterback and think they have the coach, and I think they have a really good coach too with Jim Harbaugh coming back. They still have a long way to go. The Broncos are in the desert with no oasis in sight.
They're just a blown out diaper of a football team right now. Yeah. It's just a gross roster. The whole thing hinges on whether Bo Nix is going to be good. And that is not a place I think any organization wants to be.
Yuck, dude. Gross. Is that what you're going to call it?
Just getting.
He's got a Bronco.
Getting used to the metaphors.
Just got to get used to that. So the Chiefs are last on the list. They deserve to be there. Oh, and then there's the Raiders. Is anyone taking them seriously? No? Okay, no. We can move on then.
Yeah, Antonio Pierce deserves some credit for what he did with that team last year. Obviously, he was right as the interim coach for what that team needed coming out of the Josh McDaniels mistake. What is that going to look like for an 18-week season? Like, I don't know that it's going to be like, I don't know. I think he might have been the substitute teacher. Everybody loves substitute teacher. Sometimes, especially when you have really, you had a bad experience with the head coach, that interim coach, you get that bounce. Like, how good is he really going to be at this over the course of 18 weeks? He might be really good. I reserve the right to be surprised, but I definitely think there's some substitute teacher danger here.
And the other thing, too, with the Raiders making that particular hire, and I think I've brought this up before, this feels like it was a reactionary hire because they screwed up with Rich Bisaccia. I'm not necessarily saying they should have kept Rich Bisaccia. I've got my own problems with him as the Packers special teams coordinator, but I am saying the guy they hired instead of Rich Bisaccia was a complete disaster. You know who they hired? It was Josh McDaniels.
Yes.
Complete disaster. This feels like we're not going to let that happen again. We're going to keep it in-house. Still don't know if it's going to work, but we'll see. Second least vulnerable, Judy Batista goes with the 49ers.
Makes sense.
It makes logical sense. Are we sure, though?
I just don't know that there's another team with the same ceiling in that division that San Francisco has.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're ceiling-wise, sure.
Like, you got to go get San Francisco, I think, until proven otherwise. They went 12-5 last year. I would expect them to win 11 or 12 games again this coming year. I don't think the Rams have 11-12 win ceiling. I don't think the Seahawks have 11-12 win ceiling. Maybe 9-10 at best for both of those teams. So I just don't know anybody's going to go get them.
I would argue that the Rams have a 12-win ceiling. I also think they will have a much harder time getting to that ceiling than San Francisco would. Yes. I think the range of outcomes for the Rams way wider than you have with San Francisco.
I don't think their ceiling is that high because they lost.
And they did lose Aaron Donald.
Like one of the greatest players in the history of the
That's
game,
true.
Who was still playing at a very high level in his final season. I think you lose an elite talent like that, there's no replacing it. And especially because that was a defense that was anchored so much in what he could do. And then Stafford, he got a clean bill of health last year. Can you count on that happening again? Like, I don't know.
Good question. No, very good question. Here's the rest of the list, by the way, real quick. She's got 1A and 1B, not 1 and 2. She has both the Buccaneers and the Cowboys as the most vulnerable. The Buccaneers, essentially, you're saying how good are the Falcons? Because the Saints are going to be middling again, in all likelihood, with Dennis Allen. The Panthers are going to be very bad again. The Bucs are just running it back with everybody. The Falcons added Kirk Cousins and a new head coach. Do you think that is enough to give them that division? If so, then yeah, the Buccaneers, they probably slide out. The Cowboys have had a horrible offseason. They have absolutely no plan for their future. They've got what appears to be a lame duck head coach. And the rest of their division, the Commanders aren't going to be good, I don't think, but they've gotten better.
Took a bunch of their depth.
They took all their depth, pretty much, especially on defense. The Eagles should still be good, and I think they've gotten better this offseason. I would have said the Cowboys are the most vulnerable. Almost certainly.
I think by default, the NFC East haven't had a repeat winner in 20 years, 25 years?
Something like that.
Yeah. I would say 1A, if we're doing this 1A and 1B thing, I would do 1A Cowboys, and then 1B, I would put the third ranked team and then put in.
So number 3 on the list for details is Buffalo.
Yeah.
We got Buffalo here third. It is going to be hard for them to win their division.
I would make Buffalo 1B and then Tampa 3.
Tampa after that. Yeah, I could see that argument, certainly. Buffalo's got the quarterback. They've got the only proven quarterback in that division. I'm not counting Aaron Rodgers because he's 40 years old and he just tore his Achilles. I don't think you can call that proven right now. He's one of the greatest of all time, but he's 40 and just tore his Achilles. Yeah. The Ravens, by the way, 4th, Houston 5th in this group. AFC North is going to be a lot of fun this year.
I feel like the AFC North is such a great division that it bodes for a different team to win it every other year.
It's very competitive. Yeah.
Yes, because they're so competitive. It's not like the NFC East where it's just one good team every fluke year and then it just flips every year.
It rotates which one team is good versus there are a bunch of.
Yeah.
I think maybe it's not a great argument for all of them, but I think you can make an argument for all 4 teams in the AFC North to win that division.
Oh, yeah.
It would take other teams, like it would take Baltimore sliding. But if you told me the Browns are going to have the number 1 defense in the NFL next year, which is it's possible, yeah, I could see it.
I don't think either Cleveland or Pittsburgh is going to get the level of quarterback play you need to actually go win a division unless you win it at 9-8 or 10-7. And I don't think Cincinnati or Baltimore dip below that 10-win level.
I would agree. I'm just saying in terms of making an argument. Yeah. I would still take both Baltimore and Cincinnati over the other two, though. Yeah, I would agree.
I understand. I just think the argument surrounds them getting a level of quarterback play that, again, are you getting that from the nasty man? Are you getting that from Russell Wilson at this stage of his career? I don't know. I'm skeptical.
No, I would agree. I'm also skeptical. One other thing here, one other list to get to. This is from Pro Football Focus. Zoltan Budaj wrote this. I'm not familiar with Mr. Zoltan Budaj's work, but he ranked the top 25 players under 25 years old. So you got to be under 25. At age 25 doesn't count. Under 25. How many Chiefs do you think made the list?
You put it in the rundown.
Yeah, so. I already told you.
Yeah, you gave the game away, but is it 1?
It's 1. It's Trent McDuffie. He comes in 10th. Yeah, Trent McDuffie was a first-team All-Pro player this past year in his second year in the league. He also, by the way, I didn't know this, Did you know he led all cornerbacks in pressures last year? Pressures on quarterbacks.
Adds up. It's Steve Spagnuolo's slot corner.
Yep.
Yeah.
I did not know that, but it certainly makes a whole lot of sense. He comes in 10th. I think it is absolutely correct that he is on this list. And I agree with a lot of the players on the list. I don't necessarily agree with the order. Trent McDuffie is directly behind Brock, or is 2 spots behind Brock Purdy. No. Brock Purdy, he has 8th. Garrett Wilson's 9th. No. Garrett Wilson is a better football player than Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
You can't.
Substantially.
Are we talking about positional value? Even so, I'd still take Garrett Wilson over Brock Purdy, probably. And if we're not talking about that, the next group of guys after Brock Purdy, Garrett Wilson, Trent McDuffie, Amon-Ra St. Brown, they are all better football players than Brock Purdy. You cannot change my mind on that. Purdy is good. He is right there in good. I think he's like a B quarterback. I think Garrett Wilson's a legit number 1 receiver. Trent McDuffie's a legit number 1 corner. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a number 1 receiver. Number 1, by the way, Penei Sewell. I would agree with that. I think Penei Sewell is awesome. I think he's the best right tackle in football.
I would have gone him or Jamar Chase. Chase is 4th on the list. Sauce Gardner 2nd. Trevor Lawrence is 3rd.
Yeah. Trevor Lawrence has not gotten better since he was a rookie. He is the same quarterback as he had the year with Urban.
But Brendan, he got a great PFF grade this last year.
I'm sure he did. I'm sure he got a great Pro Football Focus grade. I know that's the website we're talking about. That's why they graded him there. No, he is not the 3rd best player under the age of 25. Give me a break. We will recap the weekend right after this commercial with the good, the bad, and the ugly. Then we'll hear from Matt Verderame of Sports Illustrated coming up on 580 Sports Talk. Time to recap the weekend. It's the good, the bad, and the ugly here on 580 Sports Talk. We'll get through this quickly before we get to Matt Verderame. I had a whole lot of good to get to. Number one, Royal sweep over the A's. That was fun. Awesome. Feeling back at the K. That was a blast. Trey Richardson has committed to Washburn, Topeka's own. We will talk more about him coming up in headlines today, but that is awesome for Trey. Gets to play back at home. Awesome for Washburn because they just added an unbelievable, legitimately a power 4 caliber athlete just added to the team. That is awesome for football and track and field. Andy Weingarten on again with some good picks for the Preakness, including his pick to place was my pick to win, Seize the Gray. So your boy won a little bit this weekend, or would have if it was legal in Kansas. I would have won.
What a pity.
Seize the Gray. And I also got a couch, finally.
Hey, let's go.
Dan, we took your advice. We went the IKEA route, and save for one piece that we could not figure out, and it took us almost as long to build this one corner of the sectional as it did the whole rest of the couch. We finally have a couch. It's like a B on an A to F scale. It's not the most comfortable, but it's good enough.
You just got to break it in.
Yeah, all fit down the stairs though. That's all that counts.
It's in place, and when you break it in, I promise you, you're gonna it'll level up. Happy for you.
Yes,
happy for you and Abby. Very much.
I am also very happy for me and Abby, to be frank with you. So yeah, lots of good for me. What'd you have?
My good, great date day with my wife on Saturday. One last one before baby boy comes here in a couple of weeks. Went out to Kansas City, went to Slaps, got some barbecue.
There we go.
Slaps, quiet as kept. They might be the champ, man.
So they slap.
They do. Slap does slap.
Accurate naming.
Does slap. It is awesome. Had some barbecue. Went to the K. Abby stuck it out all 9 innings. Shout out to her. And enjoyed the ball game. Got our Wade Davis bobbleheads, and had a really, really good time at the old ball game. So yeah, that was my good.
The concrete didn't fall in on you.
No falling concrete in the 300 level, contrary to previous reports.
My good for the weekend was getting some stuff lined up for when I'm going home this week, and when I'm going to go home for a concert later in the summer, and with the girlfriend moving out here.
There we go. Up. Awesome.
And the Royals swept, which can't get better than that.
No, right? That's good. I'm telling you guys,
great stuff to talk about on the air. It just, the whole week just gets better.
I mentioned this the first couple days of the year. It might have even been during spring training. When there is good baseball, changes the tenor of the entire summer, changes the feeling for everyone and everything. And that's what we've got with the Royals now. My bad. I saw this video on Twitter yesterday. Bryson DeChambeau was walking between holes at the PGA Championship in Louisville, and he tossed a ball to a kid, a golf ball this big, tossed the golf ball to a kid. Some adult jumped in front of the kid, wrestled the ball away, and ran away with it. That's the bad. Another good is Bryson DeChambeau stopped in his tracks, walked over to the rope, and yelled at the dude, said, hey, get back here. And the dude did. He ran back like a coward, ran back and handed the ball to this 8-year-old or whatever. The bad is the dude. You're a grown man. It is a golf ball. I don't care if Jack Nicholson handcrafted it himself and gave it to you.
What about Jack Nicholas?
Nicholas. It would have been crazier if it was Jack Nicholson, actually. That would be even crazier. I don't care if Ben Hogan gave the kid the ball. It's a golf ball. It's a kid. Let him have it. You absolute dork.
I used to get Jack Nicholson and Jack Nicholas mixed up.
Sounds like
all the
Zach
time.
Hampel.
Yeah, it's like golf Zach Hampel, the baseball guy. You're a doofus and a dork. Give the kid the ball.
My bad. So my wife and I have a pool. We're opening the pool. And the worst part of owning a pool is opening the pool. You know the smell of dirty, wet leaves? Oh. It was in my nostrils for the entirety of Sunday and a little bit this morning, too. Just this revolting, gross smell of wet, dead leaves that once they dry, which will take a couple more days now because of that rain we got last night, I'm going to have to mulch.
Ooh, yuck. Real quick, any ugly for you or bad for you? Excuse me.
My bad and my ugly will go together here. I keep getting better from this allergies, and then I wake up on Saturday mornings and it's just the worst.
The worst.
This happened 3 weeks in a row. Like I feel great by the end of the week, but then like Saturday and Sunday it's bad. And then my ugly was the fact that I thought I was on severe weather duty. And so I got in my car and drove to the main road and was like, wait, am I really? And checked the schedule, and I wasn't. So I went back home.
Tough. Great weekend for me. No ugly for me.
I'm only doing it once, and it will be at 5:20 in the playoff roundup.
All right. Fair enough. Matt Verderame, who also rode a basketball team, lose a Game 7 this weekend. He'll join us next to talk all things NFL on 580 Sports Talk. Joining us, as he does every Monday at this time, on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline is Matt Verderame of Sports Illustrated. You can go check out his work covering the NFL at SI.com. You can also find his show, The Matt Verderame Show, on Patreon, and That Football Show over at the KC Sports Network as well. Matt, I do want to apologize that your beloved Knicks had their season come to an end, but I'm pretty sure I saw you getting ready to check into the game at the very end there when Jalen Brunson couldn't come back. I figured you were going to get some minutes there.
Yeah, I you know what? I got to tell you, I think they were like one injury away making that phone call. You know what? Truthfully, that is one of the rare times as a fan being able to just root for a team and not have to cover one. I just felt an overwhelming proudness about them. It wasn't even like normally your team loses in the playoffs, you're disappointed, you're angry, depending on the circumstance. I felt bad for them. Like, as a fan of them, I was just so thrilled. I mean, the only thing that sucks is just I know this sounds built in fan thing. If the Knicks were healthy, they would have killed Indiana. If that was the only thing, I'm like, if the Knicks had Randall and Anunoby, and that would have been a 5-game series, but they didn't. And now the Pacers, look, kudos to them. And now they get to be beaten by Boston in 4 games.
Yeah, I think that was going to be the inevitable outcome here.
Well, 5 games. Boston will do the whole game 2 bozo mode thing, but then other than that, they'll
That's
handle
true.
It's kind of their thing. Well, Matt, let's get to the NFL OTAs starting for many teams around the league, including the Kansas City Chiefs. I've sort of had this feeling about the Chiefs all offseason, and we talked about it on the show leading into the draft. Does this feel like an inordinately kind of boring Chiefs offseason? Like, the NFL is king. We know that. It always dominates the headlines. There's always something to talk about, but, well, they won another Super Bowl, and they're bringing most of their guys back and didn't make any gigantic splashes in free agency. And the draft, even if they don't add any impact guys, they're probably the Super Bowl favorite still. Does it almost seem like we're just kind of spinning our wheels with the Chiefs this offseason?
Well,
Well,
are we
other than
including off the
okay,
field
that was a
stuff?
horrible choice
Because-
of words. I apologize. I did not intend for that pun.
I mean, because if we're talking about the off the field stuff, the Chiefs have really kept everybody on edge. I mean, they've made plenty of headlines. But in terms of like, I know what you mean. I mean, in terms of like on the field and moves, I mean, it's been pretty ho hum. Which I think if you're the Chiefs, that's great. Like that. The big thing, of course, was in the beginning of the free agency period, which was Chris Jones. There was just like, are they going to keep him? Are they not? Now that seems like 10 years ago. But at the time, there was a real thought he might leave. They brought him back. They brought back Drew Tranquil. They needed to get a receiver. They did that with Hollywood Brown. They then, of course, doubled down and took Xavier Worthy in the first round. So look, I will say this for the Chiefs. I was talking to the Athletics' Nate Taylor, who's a friend of mine, came on my podcast end of last week, and we're talking about how it's funny. For Nate, of course, who's so close to the Chiefs, he's really dialed into every little nook and cranny of the roster. I said, it's when I look around the league and I'm sitting there and I'm doing my research, I'm preparing for the season. Like you look at even really good teams, like top 10 teams in the league, there are huge question marks at like this position and that position and who's going to start. You get to the Chiefs and you're like, yeah, I don't know, like the third biggest camp battle is probably like cornerback 4. I mean, they're so loaded that other than left tackle, which is a legitimately interesting situation, what else is there? I mean, look, Rasheed Rice, but he's going to be back at some point. It's not like he's gone. They're so talented that the biggest questions about them is like, who's going to make the bottom third of the roster? It's quite a feat.
The left tackle position is the start of that battle and the duel to get the starting job between Wanya Morris and Kingsley Suamataia. Is that the number one headline for OTAs these next couple weeks?
Yeah, I probably. I mean, look, I think I would caution people. Anything that comes out of OTAs, good, bad, or otherwise, it's not that meaningful. I mean, guys are walking around in shorts and t-shirts and helmets. Like it's not. These guys aren't out here cracking pads like they're going to be in St. Joe's. But I do think what's interesting is like which of those two guys lines up as first team left tackle. That kind of at least tells you what the coaches are thinking, and maybe they'll rotate them. But that's something that I do think is interesting. Where do those two guys sit in the mind of Andy Reid? The other thing, which I am going to be keeping a very close eye on, and nobody's really talking about this, I think it really matters. Do they try to play Jamari Conner at slot corner this year? Because they have a lot of safeties. And Conner not only played slot corner at Virginia Tech, he was excellent. He also had 5.5 sacks one year as a slot corner. That sounds like a guy Steve Spagnuolo could really use there. And look, that's not to displace McDuffie. But right now, you can't play Williams or Watson inside. You can't do it. So every time a team goes with 3 receivers, they're going to dictate the matchups because McDuffie is forced to stay inside. They don't have another slot guy. If Conner can do it, now you dictate the matchups as they always did when they had him and Snead. So I'm very curious to see if the Chiefs try to move Conner inside.
Our guest is Matt Verderame, who covers the National Football League for Sports Illustrated, SI.com, also part of That Football Show on the KC Sports Network, and produces the Matt Verderame Show on his Patreon. You can find more details about that on his Twitter account at Matt Verderame. He joined us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline every Monday here on 580 Sports Talk. OTAs opening up across the league, and it will always be noteworthy who is there and who is not. One player who is not presently is Justin Jefferson of the Minnesota Vikings. He wants a big contract. Obviously, Minnesota's got the ability to pay him. What do you think that deal ends up looking like? He's going to set the market for wide receivers, right?
Yes, he will. I think he's going to get $35 million a year. And I think that's right around there. Maybe you're talking $1 million either way. But I think he's going to get, I don't know, something like 4 and 140 and maybe 90 of it's guaranteed. I mean, something like that. And he deserves it. He's the best receiver in the NFL. I know he was hurt at a time last year, but he is spectacular. He comes with no off-field issues. He is a guy who you just drafted a rookie quarterback. You can pay him. You can pay Jefferson now. And on top of that, like you have to pay Jefferson because he's going to be the ultimate help for J.J. McCarthy. Yeah, you have Hawkinson. Yes, you have Addison. They're good players. They're not Justin Jefferson. And, I got to tell you, in relation to the Justin Jefferson stuff going on in Minnesota, I am very surprised. Dallas with CeeDee and Lamb, and then Ayuk with San Francisco. Like, if you are going to pay those guys, now's the time. Because once Jefferson signs, not that those guys are going to get more than Jefferson, Lamb's going to get close, and Ayuk's going to get close. Like, right now, you can make an argument that those guys say you guys are like 27 a year, 28 a year. You're not Tyreek Hill money, but maybe you're going to get a little more than A.J. Brown got. Okay, fine. The second Jefferson, if he signs for 34, 35, now it's, hey, yeah, I want $32 million. I want to get that kind of money. Tyreek Hill's deal, it's old news. And these teams are just sitting on their hands. I get why the Bengals aren't doing it. Higgins, they don't care. They're never going to pay him. But these other teams, you might as well pay the guy because it's only going to cost you more in the long run.
We're joined by Matt Verderame of Sports Illustrated on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. And Matt, the first receiver taken off the board this year in the draft, Marvin Harrison Jr., he's in an interesting situation with people if people wanted to get his jersey, well, they can't because he apparently hadn't signed a Fanatics deal, but Fanatics has now filed a lawsuit against him. What does all that mean for regular fans? What do they need to know about it?
Look, I think it's something that's going to get settled. It's essentially Marvin Harrison Jr. trying to have a little bit more control over his own situation. And look, I think this is something that is going to be more and more and more prevalent here in the coming years. You have these athletes now who are coming out of college who are millionaires. Like a lot of these kids that are going to be high draft picks, not guys in the 4th, 5th, 6th round, but like guys who are especially receivers, running backs, quarterbacks. They're going to have NIL money that is to a level where they don't have to come in and get this massive amount of life-changing money. Sure, they want it, but they already have millions of dollars. That's going to change the way some of these guys operate. And it might play a role in the way that they look at, hey, how do I want to try to kind of wrestle some control? And I think with Marvin Harrison Jr., if you look at his draft process, he was atypical all the way through it. I mean, he didn't go to the combine. He didn't really, do much in that entire lead up to the draft, and basically said, "Hey, go watch the tape, man. I've already put on tape who I am. That's it." I think you're going to see players try to control their narrative and their situation a little bit more. I think that's kind of what this is. But I think it'll get resolved. I don't think it's anything that's going to be a huge deal.
Finishing things up with Matt Verderame, who covers the National Football League for Sports Illustrated, also hosts the Matt Verderame Show over at Patreon, and also at the KC Sports Network is the host of That Football Show. You can find him on Twitter at Matt Verderame, and he joins us every Monday here on 580 Sports Talk on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. Middle of last week, Matt, the NFL schedule came out, and we spent a lot of time talking about some things that are fairly big changes, either to where you can watch games or frankly, to how the Chiefs didn't get a ton of favors at the end of the season with how short of a window they have in which they're playing 3 games late. They have regular Sunday, then Saturday, then that Wednesday Christmas Day game. Do you feel like that's an kind of uncharacteristically difficult stretch, especially for such a good team at the end of the year?
I think it was Warren Sharp, give him credit, who pointed out that the NFL hadn't had a team play 3 games in 10 days in years and years and years, and now it's happening 9 times this year. The NFL was just like, you know what? The hell with player safety. Doesn't matter. Get out there, because Netflix is willing to pay a lot of money. And I think that's where we're at. I mean, I'll give the NFL this. They're not even pretending anymore. Like, for years, it's always been this whole, like, dog and pony show. Well, they really want to take care of it. It's not enough. No, just wait till after this year when they start screaming that they need an 18-game schedule, and they'll get it. I am not going to sit here and complain about the way the NFL does business, in the sense that the NFL has proven it does an incredible business, and the players, they go along with it. So, at some point, if you're really that upset about it, figure it out with your union. That being said, I do think the one problem the NFL is going to start having is they have just they have stripped away the Sunday slate so much with Sunday Night Football, and then the double headers that are, I think, 4 of them this year on Monday Night Football. And then now the Thursday night games are much better because Amazon's paying a fortune and they don't want to be stuck with, Titans Colts. And now you have the Black Friday game, and you have, of course, you always had Thanksgiving, all this stuff. If I'm CBS or Fox, I'm pissed because I'm sitting there going, "Hey guys, like I'm looking at the noon slate here, and the best game is Bucks Falcons. Why are we paying you billions of dollars?" That is going to be an interesting question for the NFL to answer because you look at a lot of those Sunday slates, there are like 2 games you're excited about because all the good games are on every one of the other slots that all these other companies who are paying less money are paying for.
The other big talking point that we brought up in the wake of the schedule being released, 2 games on Christmas Day itself, and we had heard the news already that the NFL was going to start. Roger Goodell said, no, only if it's on a weekend. And then that proved to be a lie like 8 minutes after he said it, that they wanted to play a couple games on Christmas. But the fact that you're doing business now with Netflix, and I understand we're getting really into business of sports stuff, but do you feel like that's going to be an issue for fans that now, hey, not only are games that you care about and you want to watch, they're going to happen on Christmas when you're busy doing other stuff normally, but you've also, you can't just channel flip to them. You got to go out of your way to go find them. Do you feel like that's something that consumers will have an issue with?
I think that most people are kind of headed that direction anyway. So I don't think it's the end of the world. That being said, look, there are people who genuinely, they can't afford all these services. They cannot afford it. I'm not, it's not lost on me. I'm in a position where I'm fortunate enough that, Sports Illustrated will pay for the Sunday ticket because I have to have it. It's a business expense for most people. And for most of my life, that wasn't a business expense. That was like, look, you're going to have to pay whatever it is, $400, $500. And I think a lot of people would say, okay, look, I get it. Like, fair enough. Not every game's going to be in my market. If I want to watch all the games, fine. But now you're hitting people over the head for that. But it's also, hey, Peacock and Amazon and Netflix. And I mean, at some juncture, you are going to have people who go, screw you guys. I'm not going to pay for it. I'm not going to watch it. And then the ratings for those games will go down. But we have not hit that point. I mean, if you go look at the numbers that were done for that Peacock Chiefs Dolphins playoff game, there's huge ratings. I mean, people, they want their football. So I get it. I do think there is a point, though, where you do hit the disease of more. You do. But for now, the NFL is going to push this and see how far they can go before it starts to curve the other way.
You are spot on, though, man. We're short on time here, but spot on talking about, Amazon. They're paying a ton of money. They don't want the crappy AFC South token Thursday night game. Like the Thursday night schedule looks as good as I can remember it. And I mean, shoot, even the Christmas games, complain as much as we want. They got Chiefs, Steelers, and Ravens, Texans. They got 2 really dang good games for that window.
They do, because again, these companies are saying, look, Amazon's paying $1 billion a year. They don't want the Bears and the Commanders. Okay, they don't. That's not going to happen. Now this year actually would be interesting with 2 quarterbacks, but they don't want that. They want filet mignon. They don't want a tough steak, and they're going to get it. The problem is CBS and Fox, who are paying an ungodly amount of money for the big bulk of these games, are going to. I guarantee you, when they're in negotiations next time, they're going to be pissed because they're getting screwed. That is where the NFL is running a really big risk.
Matt Verderame covers the National Football League for Sports Illustrated and SI.com. He is also the host of the Matt Verderame Show on Patreon and That Football Show at the KC Sports Network. You can follow him on Twitter as well, at Matt Verderame. He joins us every Monday here on the show to talk about the National Football League. We appreciate it as always, Matt. Enjoy the week, and we'll talk to you soon.
Take care, guys.
That's Matt Verderame from Sports Illustrated. Great stuff as always. That's an interesting point he brought up about the Sunday packages, because that's that is such Sunday. You sit back, you do nothing, you eat wings and NFL watch the NFL. That is America.
Maybe CBS and Fox are going to ask for more protected games the next time. Not
a bad idea.
Their deals come up.
If I'm them, I certainly would. Coming up in the 4:00 hour, we'll lead things off talking about Seth Lugo. Should he be getting even more attention for his great start to the year? That's coming up on 580 Sports Talk. Now, 580 Sports Talk rolling on this Monday afternoon. Brendan Dworzinski with Dan Lucero, with Spencer Dupuis, and with Trenton Kraxner here with you in studio today. With you until 6 o'clock. That's when we'll send you to the Royals Radio Network as we get ready for Royals versus Tigers, game one of their 3-game set coming up this evening, 6:40 first pitch. You'll be able to hear pregame, postgame, and the game itself right here on 580 WIBW. We'll talk a little Seth Lugo here in just a second. Dan got to see him in person over the weekend.
You know, he's bigger than you realize. Like you look at his
He's got
baseball
some
reference.
heft.
He's like 6'4", 225.
Yeah.
And that is the only thing that would make you like look twice at him if he walked into like the Hy-Vee while you were, if he were standing next to you buying produce, you would not think, oh yeah, that guy's one of the best starting pitchers in the American League so far. It's a very unassuming look about him.
He's 50 pounds heavier than I am. Like, that's the only difference. I could be Seth Lugo if I gained 50 pounds.
Yeah, I think there's probably some differences in how fast you can spin a curveball. You ever thrown a 3,400 RPM curveball, Brendan?
I once hit 60 in one of those how fast can you throw games at a carnival.
Hey, that's not nothing. Did you get a prize?
No, I take it back. It wasn't at a carnival. It actually kind of was a carnival. It was at a White Sox game.
Yeah, there you go.
It was on the 200 level concourse. I reared back and I cracked 60 once, and I thought I was going to cry. My arm really hurt.
Yeah.
Usually I get to like mid-50s.
I threw out my arm in my post-playing days at the Coors Field speed pitch with my buddies. But I ran it up to 78, and I got the little pin that says I had the fastest pitch or whatever it was.
Man, okay. So you played baseball at a fairly competitive. I mean, you played college baseball. You played at a very competitive level.
Incredibly briefly, but yes.
Yes, you got there, though. It's like going to Harvard. Like, the hardest part is getting in. You got to college baseball.
Yes.
That's a big accomplishment. I did not. I stunk at baseball. I love the sport. I was really good with the glove, but I could not hit to save my life. I wasn't really accurate when I would throw the ball, and I just could not hit. I didn't have the patience for it.
In the major leagues, it's good to be a glove first second baseman.
Yeah.
You know what those guys all were in Little League? The best defensive shortstops in like 6 counties.
You had never once seen someone who had played better in the field, who, he hit 600 in high school, and they're just a nobody in the majors. That's me, except I was a nobody in Little League.
We don't think about or acknowledge that that fact enough about professional athletes. Like, all of these dudes were the best player that anyone had ever seen when they were like 12.
Correct. Yes. I got to pitch one time in fall ball. We had fall Little League. It was like a 7-game season or whatever. I pitched once. It was one of the few games that my dad attended. Usually it was my mom who would come to, my dad worked and my mom was the one who came to games normally, but we played on a weekend and my dad got to come see me. I got to pitch. I hit 4 batters, I think, in the 5 I faced, struck out the other one. And I threw out my arm and he had to come help me off the field. Like, I legitimately I couldn't feel my arm. I just threw as hard as I could. I had no idea where it was going. It was one of the most embarrassing moments of my life.
Hey, man, you got taken out with a no-hitter still active.
That is true. That is true. Yeah, it was brutal. I hit 4 kids. None of them were close. It wasn't like, oh, man, it clipped the jersey. No, I hit him right in the back.
Usually there's a fight at the bat rack sometimes with pitchers struggling. But in your case, they were all standing around. It was a different kind of fight. Nah, man, I don't want to face this guy.
Nah, for real, though. I still have I can accurately throw a football. I cannot accurately throw a baseball very well. When I was in Tennessee a few weekends ago, we found this public park. I think I mentioned it on the show when we got back. Beautiful, most beautiful public baseball field I've ever seen. It's perfectly maintained. It's got turf. It's right on the side of a mountain. It was incredible. I was in the outfield. We played kind of a modified pickup game because we didn't have 9 people. I got a ball hit to me in left field, scooped it up, and perfect. It got it on the hop. Perfect motion to make a throw to the plate. And I put a whole bunch of mustard behind that ball. You know where it ended up? The dugout. Threw it into the entry to the dugout that was outside the fence. It was not close. I'm glad I didn't break someone's phone in the dugout. That's what I was worried about.
See,
I was going to break something.
What I am not used to is now that Jake LeBon is no longer part of the programs, being the most decorated, and I cannot tell you how loosely I am using that term.
Yeah.
But being the most decorated athlete on the 580 Sports Talk team, it really is sinking in now, hearing these stories of your previous baseball glories.
If I firmly believe, if I had stuck with playing volleyball in high school, I absolutely could have been like a rotational NAIA men's volleyball player.
There are a lot of NAIA men's volleyball programs.
More than there are Division I.
No kidding.
I think there's only like 29 Division I men's volleyball teams.
How about that?
Yeah, they're all over the place. Like, there's a lot of D2s. Like
those Illinois Catholic schools.
Yes. You remember being at Quincy, right?
Yes.
They've got men's volleyball. They've got Division I men's volleyball.
Yeah.
Ohio State travels to Quincy, Illinois to play in the 1,000-person Pepsi Arena.
Yep.
To play the Quincy Hawks in Division I sports. We need more. This is a good example of why we need to expand men's volleyball.
Yeah.
KU, K-State, add a team. You could play at Quincy and at McKendree at some point. All right, let's get to the actual professionals here.
Yeah, I don't know how we got so derailed talking about Seth Lugo, the most unassuming star pitcher in the American League. He's been carving his last 5 starts, 34 and a third innings, 44 strikeouts to 6 walks. I cannot tell you how pleasurable it is to watch a Royals pitching staff, at least a starting pitching staff, that just doesn't walk a lot of guys as a general rule. The bullpen command can get a little iffy. Chris Stratton's been all over the place. But it's so pleasant to watch baseball when pitchers aren't walking guys. There was only one combined walk in Saturday's game. Lugo pitching against Ross Stripling of Oakland. Only one walk. And Lugo was the one who issued it. So he has been outstanding. The early season concerns about his strikeout rate, I think, have dissipated in his last 5 starts. And he is giving the Royals every chance to win every time he takes the ball. It has been the best case scenario for that signing all the way down since he joined the team.
It was a 3-year 45.
I think you are correct about that.
No, I think it was only 2 years. I want to say 2. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe a 3rd-year option.
Yeah, so it is. It was reported as a 3-year deal, and for some reason, Seth Lugo has a blocked contract on Spot Track.
No, it's 2 years, 30, and then a player option
for 15
for the 3rd year. Yeah.
All right, so you've at least got him for these 2 seasons.
I don't know if there's a buyout or what. There's not one indicated at Baseball Reference.
Trenton,
Still, that's a great contract.
It is a great contract. Trenton, if we could get audio to this computer over here, I want to play this from MLB Network. This was last week. This was late last week. It was before the most recent start for Seth Lugo. This is Russell Dorsey of MLB Network arguing for his dark horse pick to win the Cy Young Award this year. Take a listen.
But Russ, who you guys, your dark horse?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go to the other league in the American League. I'm going with Seth Lugo. We had the graphic up earlier, a 1.66 ERA. Now, a lot of people look at Seth Lugo as, wait, wasn't he a reliever? He was. Then he goes to San Diego, becomes a starter, and he has been fantastic for the Royals, who have been really good as a staff. But you're talking about a guy that's 4th in ERA, 1.66. He's 2nd in all of baseball in wins, 11th in WHIP. 1st in all of Major League Baseball in innings pitched. You're talking about a guy that's going to pick up the baseball. You're going to get 7 out of him. Struck out 12 over the weekend. Seth Lugo, you talk about value. He was not a Yoshinobu Yamamoto and Shota Imanaga. And the Royals said, you know what? This is a guy that could really help our young staff. And he has. And not only has led them, but he's been a guy who's just like, we can get 7 and 12 punchies out of Seth Lugo. Let's go.
All right, a couple quick things. One, the next time I hear someone call a strikeout a punchy, I'm going to have a stroke. I'm going to lose my mind. Secondly, host, please stop talking over him while he's making a point. Very bad television. Other than that, very interested in what Russell Dorsey had to say here. And while he was talking about the previous start for Seth Lugo, he went out only 5 2/3, but he also struck out 10 this
punchies,
weekend.
Yeah.
Dan, there's only 2 computers and some desks between you and I. I will never say that. Anyway, like, he's right. Like, this is who he has been. He was not one of the must-have free agent pitchers. He was not Yamamoto. He was not Imanaga. He was not any of the other guys who signed these massive contracts. He was kind of
not even like a Blake Snell,
Snell,
coming off a Cy Young or anything like that. But the Royals saw the opportunity to get a guy, and $15 million a year is about the going rate for a mid-rotation starting pitcher anymore. And they saw an opportunity to go and get a guy, and again, just raise substantially the floor of their starting pitching rotation. And this is only his third full year as a starting pitcher. He was a full-time starter back in 2017 with the Mets, but only made 18 starts in 19 games that year. He had some seasons where he started a few games, relieved in most of his games. Last year was the first time he ever made more than 19 starts in a season. He made 26 starts, career high 146 in a third innings. Proved he could do it, proved he was worth the outlay of money, and the Royals have picked up a guy who's been a really good fit. He's been, again, able to go deep into games. How do you go deep into games? Don't walk people. That helps. That helps a lot. He's only walking 1.8 guys per nine, 13 walks in 65 in a third inning. And the strikeouts have ticked back up, I think, because he started to expand his pitch mix even more. I said a couple of starts ago, it was after this 5-start run started with that excellent start he had in Detroit, that Friday afternoon game, that weird Friday afternoon game because they had the draft and they wanted to play early in Detroit.
Yep.
That was 7 shutout innings, I believe. Maybe 1 hit innings for Lugo that day. He was awesome in that start. And that start felt like a vintage Zach Greinke outing where you just didn't know what he was going to throw from pitch to pitch. He's just mixing everything up. And when you've got as much usable stuff as he has, Baseball Savant's got him throwing 8 different pitches. He doesn't throw the sweeper a lot, but still, that gives him 7 different pitches that he's willing to use fairly frequently. And you don't know when they're going to show up, how they're going to move. And the spin rate has always been a lead on his breaking stuff. He's a tough at bat right now. Like, there were a lot of uncomfortable swings that the A's took against him. He did give up the two runs. He gave up the 2-run homer to Seth Brown in the second inning. But of those 10 strikeouts, a lot of uncomfortable swings, a lot of poor timing swings, a lot of swings at pitches that were well out of the strike zone, a lot of chasing going on. He is pitching at a really, really high level. And to pitch at a high level for an extended period of time, you got to strike a bunch of guys out. You got to walk very few guys, and you got to keep the ball in the ballpark. And Lugo's doing that as well as any pitcher in the league, which is why he's performing like one.
And the point about you can go longer in a game when you don't walk guys, that is especially exacerbated by the Royals. They don't want you facing the order the third time, or very much of the order the third time, unless you've got a lot of trust. Cole Reagans gets to start the third time against the order because he's your ace. He's your best pitcher. Lugo has gotten to do that a couple of times, but generally speaking, and if you even just go back and look at box scores, I remember it was a couple weeks ago now, it was, I think, Waka and Singer with back-to-back starts. And the question was, well, they each only gave up 1 run. Why did Waka get to go a full extra inning more than Brady Singer did? Well, it was about the number of batters faced and avoiding the third time through the order. That is something that the Royals and Matt Quattrero have committed to. That is very much when you talk about wanting to replicate what the Tampa Bay Rays have done over time, sort of the analytical view of handling a baseball game and managing a baseball game. When you face the order the third time, generally batting averages, on base percentages, slugging percentages, what happens? They go up. They increase. You want to avoid that. You want to make them face a different pitcher when you get to the next time through the order. So if you know, once I see that 9-hole hitter the second time, my time is going to be short for the rest of this game, you want to make sure you get as deep into, you last as long as possible. You want to give them a chance to say, hey, he's only thrown 70 pitches and he's gotten through 2 times through the order in, 5 innings or whatever. We can go a little bit longer. You want to give them a reason to say, we're going to allow you to pitch deeper in a game. Seth Lugo has earned that. No one, you mentioned Blake Snell as a comparison for some of the bigger named free agents. Blake Snell is a multi-time Cy Young winner. When he was available still at the start of the year, it was, oh my God, I can't believe this guy is still available. If Seth Lugo had been in that position, it would have been, yeah, that's weird. And there would have been no discussion about it. Jordan Montgomery won a World Series this past year. It was a key part of it. It was, oh my God, he helped them win a World Series. How is he not signed? If it had been Seth Lugo, it would have been, yeah, weird, I guess. But it's another example of the Royals and this staff and development helping a guy who is in his mid-30s have one of the best years of his career. Salvador Perez is having that. Seth Lugo is having that. That's not normal, which is good and encouraging because, holy cow, like, this is awesome. You're getting really good contributions out of dudes you didn't expect to be this good or changing their games in this way. But also maybe if you're pessimistic, you say, this is not good because can we rely on two guys in their mid-30s to keep this up for the rest of the season? I don't see any reason why you can't, but it is unique.
That's the big question, right? Like, you wonder that with any starting pitcher, particularly one in his mid-30s. Like, are you going to get 32 starts out of Seth Lugo? If you only get 25, who's going to cover those other 7 starts? Are they going to pitch to this level? Probably not. Is Lugo going to continue to pitch to a 1.79 ERA for a full season? That's not terribly likely, but I don't think that the regression necessarily has to be a violent negative regression. That's a weird way to put it, but you understand what I'm saying.
Right.
I don't think there needs to be like an extreme regression because, again, he does things well that are conducive for long-term success. He's not out here doing this just pitching to contact and being visited by the batting average on balls and play fairy every game. He's not out there, only striking out 6 guys per 9, or he's walking a bunch, but he's stranding a bunch of runners, or he's given up a bunch of home runs, but they've all been solo home runs. No, he has done the things that he can control at a really high level. And that is going to give him the opportunity to be steadily successful as the season goes on, even if the ERA doesn't stay in the ones forever.
Either way, it's a win, I think.
Oh, sure. I mean,
what 34 and a half years old. I mean, what he's doing is just flawless for a nearly 35-year-old guy. And the contract he's on, if he can at least stabilize and have finish with a 3.25 or under ERA, that's a great first year in the contract.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting value.
You're getting that value.
Yeah, one way or the other. He's already lived up to what you hope. I mean, better than what you had hoped from him so far this year. The funny thing about Lugo too, talking about raising the floor for a pitching staff. How often do you sign a guy to be someone who kind of brings your bottom line up, who ends up in the end being someone who raises the ceiling for your team? Nobody expected him to be this good. But if you're getting your number 2 pitcher to pitch like this, when you've got your number 1, Cole Reagans, who's already been good and can be even better, well, think about how much better that makes your entire team. Obviously, the number 1 most important thing for this team was just getting to respectability with this pitching staff and having 5 guys you can rely on every 5 days to go out there and keep you in a game. That was number 1, and the Royals accomplished that. That is the kind of move that raises a floor. But now, all of a sudden, you've got 3 guys who you say, yeah, we can rely on them pretty regularly and consistently and not worry about it in Singer and Waka and Marsh. And then you've got 2 dudes who are pitching like aces. I mean, how much does that change your outlook for an entire season if you can get those kind of contributions? It changes everything.
And it takes the pressure off of the offense. And I think it's a big part of the reason why we haven't seen wholesale changes to the offense yet. We haven't seen a lot of transactions or lineup changes or guys sent down and called up, is because right now the mix is working, and it's working as a result of how good the starting pitching, how good the run prevention has been. Giving guys like Hunter Renfroe and MJ Melendez and Nelson Velasquez a chance to maybe find their footing. They're getting a longer leash than they might have otherwise because you haven't needed quite as much offense to win because your starting pitchers have gone through and pitched so well.
It's been incredible. I don't think Seth Lugo is going to win your American League Cy Young Award this year in all likelihood. We might see the next, the number 1 favorite to win that award coming up on Wednesday, though.
Yeah, Tarek Skubal is really pitching well for Detroit. I think if I had a vote today, he'd probably get it. Like, a lot of season left, but he'd get my vote.
Who would be second?
I would probably say, I might even say Lugo second. I'm trying to think if I'm over or under thinking it and leaving somebody out. Boston's had a couple really good pitchers. Cutter Crawford's been really good. Tanner Houck's been really good. I know John Gray's been really good for Texas. Luis Gill and Clark Schmidt for the Yanks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
New York's pitching has been awesome.
No, I might go Scooble Lugo, and then I double-checked who's got more wins above replacement. Cutter Crawford being my top 3.
Yeah, I think it's Scooble way ahead of the pack right now, but the fact that Lugo is even in that conversation is really, really incredible and way more than the Royals could have even asked for when they signed him this offseason. What is wrong with you is coming up next. Then we'll get to some transfer portal news and notes from the weekend later on this hour here on 580 Sports Talk. What is wrong with you time on 580 Sports Talk with Brendan, Dan, and Spencer in studio with you today. We will find our winner for the month of May next week. That'll be on the 31st of May. The 31st is a Friday. Wow, how fitting is that? So this is our final full week of What is Wrong with You this week. Let's get to our stories today. Spencer, why don't you go first for What is Wrong with You?
All right, we're going to go to the well-known great state of Florida, in Southwest Florida to be exact. A man was charged with 9 felonies stemming from a road rage incident along Alligator Alley earlier this month, state police say. Francisco Gonzalez, 44, of Lehigh Acres, faces 3 counts each of discharging a firearm from a vehicle, shooting or throwing a missile into a dwelling, building, vehicle, or aircraft, and aggravated assault with intent to commit a felony. Florida Highway Patrol troopers say they responded to a call from a black Toyota Tundra driver with a U-Haul trailer. The driver reported being shot at by someone inside a black Infiniti QX80 following a road rage incident at about 5 p.m. on May 5th. The Tundra driver was east on the Alligator Alley, or I-75, when the black Infiniti Q80 cut him off. The man told the FHP a back and forth road rage incident ensued, which led to gunshots being fired from the Infiniti, state police said in the news release on Friday. The Infiniti left the scene while the victim stopped to contact law enforcement, saying troopers immediately responded to the scene and began the investigation. They determined the time and location of the incident and the fact that the back window of the Infiniti was shot out. Based on this, FHP analysts with the agency's Bureau of Criminal Investigations and Intelligence identified the suspect vehicle using license plate readers in the area. Troopers found the suspect vehicle was being serviced at a local dealership and responded to the dealership to speak with the suspected driver, Gonzalez. Gonzalez told troopers he felt the driver of the Tundra almost killed him and his family by driving in his lane. Gonzalez said he did what he had to do to defend his wife and stepson, who were also in the vehicle at the time. After speaking to everyone involved and reviewing all evidence, FHP investigators determined Gonzalez's assertion that he, quote, stood his ground to protect his family was not valid. As a result of the investigation, the Infiniti was impounded, evidence was collected, and Gonzalez was arrested and transported to Collier County Jail.
So, look, I'm not gonna.
Tread lightly here.
Yeah, there's much to be said about stand your ground laws, which are in place in the state of Florida. But I'm pretty sure, that guy cut me off, so I emptied the clip into his vehicle. I don't think that qualifies. Yeah. I do not think that's a stand your ground situation.
Nope, I wouldn't think so.
I think that, he drove in my lane, so I shot at him repeatedly, but I was only standing my ground. I mean, in front of the right judge, maybe that works. In front of the right, in the hands of the right investigators, maybe that flies.
Not this one.
Not this one.
No, that's bad, man. You can't shoot someone for cutting you off. Have some decorum, people, please. That's terrible. We're going to Florida for my story as well, where in Avon Park specifically, things took you're going to hate this, frosty turn at a Highlands County Wendy's when a Florida man's beef with the fast food joint turned into a pickle of a problem.
All right, calm down, Shakespeare.
For employees as he threatened to rob the restaurant using his guns, his makeshift guns, his finger guns.
Sure.
Those were his weapons, finger guns. Deputies say the incident began around 11:30 p.m. all the way back on April 24th when the suspect ordered from the drive-thru at the Avon Park Wendy's. While investigators say they don't know what he ordered, it wasn't ready right away. And an employee asked him to pull up and wait for a little bit. We've all had that happen, right? Like, hey, we got a long line. It's taking a minute. Pull over here or just wait at the end of the drive-thru. We'll get it to you eventually. Well, according to the sheriff's office, the suspect didn't like that idea. So he got out of his vehicle, approached the window, and told the employee he could rob the restaurant. Afterward, investigators say the suspect ran inside the store, ignoring the no shirt, no service rule. He was shirtless, jumped on a table, and repeated his threats while waving his, quote, finger guns. After realizing he was at the wrong fast food restaurant to have it your way, deputies say the suspect left without any food, got into a gray Nissan Rogue, and left. He is described as being 5 foot 5 inches tall and weighing around 200 pounds. Anyone who can identify the suspect is asked to call the Highland County Sheriff's Office or Crime Stoppers.
If you're getting fast food at 11:30 and you're not like a second shift, third shift, just eating your dinner, you probably, I'm going to assume this gentleman was on the influence of something. He jumped on a table without a shirt on in the Wendy's.
Yeah, why was he shirtless? That's what I'm curious about.
It is Florida.
It is Florida. Maybe it was hot. He seems to be tatted, if I'm seeing this video correctly. It's also empty. Like,
completely empty.
I can understand being frustrated about not getting your order if you're the only person there or the only person in line. I can understand being frustrated by that. Not enough to walk in and start pointing finger guns at the wait staff. That's over the top.
Fast Vance in the YouTube live chat asked if that meant the cops weren't able to catch up with him after he fled. That's a good one, man. That's a good one, Vance.
Yeah.
That's a really good one.
All right. Who gets the win for today?
It's got to be the Wendy's guy. I just, what's his play? Like,
finger guns are going to do?
You just got to wait 5 minutes for your biggie bag. Like, it's 5 minutes, dude. Chill.
It's also worth it.
Yeah,
this is good.
100%. The biggie bag.
I just don't get what this guy was going to do with finger guns.
Yeah, what is the point here? Like, what do you think is going to come of this? Do you think you are going to get them to make it faster?
Yeah, like they're going to duck when they see you point your finger gun at them. Like, oh no, empty the register. Give him whatever he wants. He's pointing his index finger at me in a threatening manner.
Was he using one finger
Careful,
or two?
that thing's loaded.
All right. I'm going to go with the Wendy's guy as well. That is our winner today in What Is Wrong With You. We'll have 2 new stories coming up for you tomorrow here on the program. Coming up next, KU got another commitment out of the transfer portal this weekend for basketball. Kind of a unique situation, plus some other news from KU and Portal Talk in general. That's up after this commercial break right here on 580 Sports Talk. I got to be honest with you guys, doing a story about Wendy's in What Is Wrong With You and then hearing a Chick-fil-A commercial right before coming back from break, I am starving.
Yeah.
I could house a spicy from Chick-fil-A and a Baconator right now. Throw those down in a heartbeat. I used to, Spencer, you didn't know me at this time in my life because you have been with us for just over 4 months now. There was a period in time where I used to eat fast food for lunch every single day.
This is not an exaggeration, Spencer. We, every single day. It was something new. It was always kind of fun, actually, to be Brendan's desk mate and to see what kind of day are we having today.
Well, I mean, eventually, and I know I can tell what fast food people are eating just by the smell of it generally.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you picked up on that eventually. Like,
oh yeah, you come around the corner. Uh-oh, he went to the King of Burgers today. That's the unmistakable odor of a Whopper.
And just a pile of lettuce at the bottom of the bag. Every single day.
The worst.
Did your wife make you do a cost analysis on it and realized it was easier to bring food from cheaper?
I don't know if you believe this. He was not married at the time.
Yeah, no.
I meant like the twist on it, like to get it to end.
So that is part of it. When we got together, we weren't like broke or anything, but we definitely ran through like, okay, especially if we hope to buy a house here in the near-ish future, what sort of thing, and, we both had car payments. Like, what do you think we could do to shore this up a little bit? And I said, well, I can certainly cut back on how much fast food I eat. If I bring lunch from home, that'll probably save us a lot of money. And I did do some back of the napkin math, pun not intended, at one point. And a number with several zeros was my final conclusion of how much I would save per year if I didn't eat fast food literally every day. And I've barely eaten it for lunch in the last 8 months.
How long
9
ago
months.
was this back napkin done?
A year ago or so. Probably a year, maybe a year and a half.
Did you adjust for inflation when you did it?
I did not. Well, I guess technically.
Because you're saving more money than you really initially
That's
thought.
true.
Probably.
No, that is so true.
Between that and McDonald's finally doing away with the McRib, I mean, it was really easy for him to eventually quit cold turkey. That was the worst. When they bring back the damn McRib.
A whole building would smell like it.
He'd bring 2 of them. He calls it the full slab.
The full slab. Oh, yeah.
2 McRibs.
Oh, buddy, they're so good. Get that onion, those sliced onions, get the pickle on top.
I just sat there and watched him like you would watch an animal at the zoo. Just completely curious as to what the appeal of the McRib was.
Oh, they're so good.
Now that that's not around and he's domesticated, eating healthy and I used to do it pretty frequently myself, and now that I live in much closer to the office than I used to, and also am married, I just go home and
also
eat
have
peanut butter and jelly.
A lot of money to spend in the near future.
Yes. Children are expensive is what I understand. Working to confirm.
Yeah, this just in.
Working to confirm. Got to feed them.
Yeah.
And pay for daycare. That's the one that's going to hit like a shotgun blast to the chest. That first daycare check I got to write.
Not for a little while, right? When do you have to start? How old are they when they start?
Well, Abby's going to take a couple of months, obviously, of maternity leave at the start of the next school year. And it's October, November,
All right,
maybe.
you got a little time.
You got a little time.
Little bit.
Yeah, still. It will not soften the blow. Trust me.
Oh, I can imagine. 2 quick things here from YouTube before we get to some transfer portal notes. One from Jayhawker, who says, since I'm a Kansas native, I'm always up for a meal featuring massive quantities of beef. See, I'm just stimulating the local economy when I eat a cheeseburger for lunch every day. Sometimes 2.
There you go.
Sometimes the biggest ones I can find. Also from Vance on YouTube in the comment section, the pad is the best. You want to talk about hitting like a Mack truck? I told you guys when Spencer started, I'd take you to lunch there. We do have to go. I will treat you guys to lunch at the pad. I love it. I love it so much. I would eat the pad every day if I could. It is so good. Cheese balls.
Yeah, they got a little zing to them too.
Yeah,
really.
God.
Yeah. I might see if I can talk Abby into the pad tonight.
So good. Oh, I love the pad. We hit tailgaters this weekend for dinner. You want to talk jalapeno cheese cubes? Oh man, delicious.
Like, I last time I went to tailgaters with Abby, we just got their like appetizer sampler tray. Just give me all the fried stuff that you've got back there. Just fry it up, put it down in front of me. Give me some dipping sauces. I want to eat like a raccoon tonight.
Are you changing your ways when the new Brahms opens?
Where
you go there maybe once every couple weeks for lunch.
So, Father, forgive me, but it's time to go back to the old me. I hit Brahms every time I'm out of town. Every time I drive past when I eat there. It's a must.
We're not confirmed on the existence of the Brahms.
Are we not? I thought it was confirmed.
I have no idea. You talk to one person and they're dead convinced it's happening and they know exactly where it's happening. And you talk to the next person, they say, well, no.
Here's what I know. I know y'all do advertisements in the markets where you have restaurants. So you hit us up. You know the number, 785-272-9429. We'll make it worth your while. You want to do some advertising, we will hook you up with
I
that.
am for sale.
Hold on. I guess back in January it was confirmed via KSNT that the Brahms spokeswoman said the company does own 2 locations.
Yeah, like they own the land.
The land in Topeka and Lawrence.
Yes,
Southwest Topeka Boulevard, 700 Southwest Topeka Boulevard.
Listen, if it does happen, if there is one in town in the near future, I will be there no matter what. I will be throwing down, I think, is that number 2 that I get? No, number 2 is my Whataburger order. Also what I get every single time I go out of town, because we don't have one in Topeka yet. But again, Patrick Mahomes, if you wanna make a trip over to Lawrence or over to Topeka, where I live now, and get Whataburger set up, we would appreciate that.
So they own a building that is right next to Wendy's. Would they drive Wendy's out?
No.
No, I'll switch days. I'll eat Wendy's one day, and I'll go get Brahms the day right after that. Transfer portal news. KU picked up a commitment this weekend from Noah Shelby, who once upon a time was a fairly highly touted recruit, top 120 player in the country a few years back, 2 years back, in fact. Started his career at Vanderbilt, 1 year there, transferred from there to Rice, where he was last season. He was a side dish, an owl. And now he is transferring to KU. So
quite an academic journey the young man is on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he wanted to go somewhere with better academics than both Vanderbilt and Rice. So he went to the Harvard of Northeast Kansas, University of Kansas. So KU recruited him. KU had offered him a scholarship originally back in the class of 2022. He ended up picking Vanderbilt at the time. It obviously has not worked out. So my understanding of the situation, he is walking on at KU. This is not a scholarship addition. This is a walk-on addition to the team. He is also going to redshirt. This is known. He said this in his announcement. He is going to redshirt this coming season at KU. He will have 2 years of eligibility after that. To me, if you're Noah Shelby, this is a win-win situation. It's not a win in the sense that you don't play this year, but you get to go to Kansas. And at the very least, you get a year of practice film. You get a good word, assuming everything goes well. I have no reason to believe it won't. A good word from Bill Self and Norm Roberts and Curtis Townsend and these guys who are well respected in the college basketball coaching world. And if you say, I know that I'm not going to play on scholarship here, but maybe this will open up a path for me to play at a better mid-major or, go another high major, whatever, you will have the tape and the opportunity and the recommendation of Bill Self's coaching staff to say, hey, look, Noah was with us. Great practice player. We like what we have. We just don't have room for him. Take him. He's worth it. That's a plus. The other potential plus outcome here is you have a great year practicing as a redshirt. KU has an open scholarship next year, and you get a scholarship, and you play at KU.
And they're going to need a ball handling guard with the ability to shoot because DeJuan Harris will finally run out of eligibility.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Wait, so did he accept the scholarship spot?
No, he's walking.
No, he's walking on. Yeah,
Okay.
he's a walk-on. Which the plus thing for KU here, we have heard from Michael Swain telling us this. We have heard Bill Self say it during the course of the offseason and in the wake of how last season ended too. Practice needs to be intense. You want to have battles in practice. That was one of his big takeaways from the championship team a couple of years ago, that practice every single day was a war. And the young guys, the KJ Adams in that year, Zach Clements that year, the other guys who were young that year, they did a great job with the second string battling against Christian Brown and Ochai Agbaji and DeJuan Harris and Remy Martin and the A-team guys every single day in practice. That is something KU wanted to add. You're adding a dude who is on a scholarship at 2 different Division I programs. He's walking on as a practice player now. You are going to get those battles and that toughness in practice. That's what Bill Self wanted. So I'm all in on the Noah Shelby edition. Outside of that, we talked about this with Michael last week. Jackson Robinson from BYU. He is one of the targets KU is still going after, still have an open scholarship spot here. There is also some reporting out there that Javon Small, who was at Oklahoma State last year, announced a commitment to West Virginia but hasn't signed. Reportedly, he is still fielding calls from other programs. We know KU is interested in him. Michael Swain's got some writing about this over at Fog behind his paywall. We'll talk to him about it coming up tomorrow. So KU is clearly still looking to fill out that 13th scholarship. They'll take the reduction. If they can fill it, they'll take their final scholarship reduction a year from now. Next year, worry about it then. I like Jackson Robinson, good offensive player. He's still going through the NBA draft process. Don't know if he's going to come back to school yet or not. It is so clear that when Bill Self said, this is never happening again with this depth problem, he really meant it. It does make you wonder, though, and I think having too much talent is a good thing. You want talent. He said, I want 8 or 9 starters. You got that already, or close to it at this point. You had another guy, and Jackson Robinson, who was the sixth man at BYU. He could have started. He was one of their top scorers. Javon Small would be immediate. He might start at the 2 guard. You've got the talent. You've got the depth. The question does become legitimately, though, are there too many guys who want the ball? My initial inclination is no. That's a lot of guys with a lot of recruiting pedigree and a lot of college basketball experience, and only 5 guys are on the floor at the same time.
Only 5 guys and only 1 ball.
Right.
But this is where I think there's value. You can recruit a bunch of guards / wings who are scoring guards, who are finishing guards, like AJ Storr is, like Zeke Mayo is, like Jackson Robinson could be if KU were able to get him. Who am I forgetting? I mentioned Storr.
Storr, Griffin, Mayo.
Yeah, Griffin. That's who I missed. Rylan Griffin is another guy who's a scoring guard. You can do that when you have a point guard who doesn't need to score. And I think that is the asset that whoever is out there for KU with DeJuan Harris, you're going to have your opportunities because DeJuan Harris doesn't need the opportunity because he is going to be better suited in distributing and making sure that those other guys get a shot volume that they're going to be happy with. Now, I don't know what the conversations are with a guy like this stage in the recruiting process. I'm sure there's an understanding. Hey, look, we've got a bunch of guys already on scholarship that are really, really good players. You come in, you're going to be part of a mix. You're going to have to get in where you fit in. There is no guarantee. Part of me would be really surprised if Jackson Robinson ended up KU as a result of this, because I think he's a guy who had some NBA draft buzz at times for BYU. And I would think he would want to be somewhere where he would be a little more featured. It's hard for me seeing him being in a featured role with this KU team this next year. Like, I don't know what that would look like for him with Griffin and Storr already on the roster. Like, he's a guard who can create his own shot. He was a bench player for BYU last year, though, so maybe he is accustomed to, okay, I might not start games, but I'm going to finish games, or I'm going to leave my footprint on these games one way or another. I do, though, think that the concern about, do we have too many cooks in the kitchen? Do we have too many guys who need the ball? Well, not only do you have a point guard who doesn't need to score, you've got a power forward doesn't need to score. You have guys on this team whose place on the team, whose leadership roles on the team are secure, and they're not scoring players. They're not score-first players. And if you come into this program and you see the guys who've been around the longest and the guys who are working the hardest, DeJuan Harris and KJ Adams, if they don't need to score to be happy and help this team win, then I don't either. I'll get mine, but I don't need mine to be happy. Yeah. The happiness comes from going out, winning the Big 12, winning a national championship. That's the hope. You got to have the right mix of people. You got to have the right coach and the right leadership. But if you can pull it all together, depth is nothing but a good thing.
And that might be where you lose some guys that have potential interest in KU at this point. Where am I going to fit in? I have interest in KU, but where am I going to fit in? I want to be able to go and score a lot this year. Whereas if you take a guy that's going to play a role, maybe he won't be there that long. He wants to be the guy.
I think that when you look at what the rotations could be, like DeJuan Harris is probably at his best if he's not playing more than 30 minutes, because you don't need him to score. He's going to be crisper defensively, which we saw he fell apart a little bit down the stretch last year because he was out there on the floor so much. You get him out there a whole lot more, or he's fresher at the end of games. Will Self wants him closing. You're going to feel a whole lot more comfortable about that. Hunter Dickinson, great player. But you probably want him playing closer to 30 minutes than 35 or 36 minutes to keep him fresher. We saw him in the Gonzaga game. No one played well against Gonzaga. Hunter Dickinson looked like he wasn't even on fumes. I mean, the tank was all the way empty at the end of that game when he was getting run off the floor. The one thing for me, rotation-wise, the number one thing, can you play KJ Adams at the 5? And by can, I mean, is he willing to? Because I know he wants to be a 4. Bill Self wants him to be a 4. If you make him your number 2 5-man, I think the rotations will work perfectly. I really do. But if you're jamming him in at 4 and he's going to play 30 minutes, that's when things get a little bit clogged up. And that's when I think it becomes harder to find a spot for a Javon Small or for a Jackson Robinson. We'll talk more KU coming up tomorrow with Michael Swain. He'll join us for Jayhawk Weekly. We've got 1 hour left of 580 Sports Talk today, coming up after the news. It's the final hour of 580 Sports Talk here on 580 WIBW, FM News 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and on YouTube at 580 Sports Talk. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. He's Dan Lucero. He's Spencer Dupuis. Trenton Craxner on the other side of the glass today as well, keeping us on the air. Big, full 5 o'clock hour coming your way. 6 o'clock tonight, we'll send you over to the Royals Radio Network for pregame coverage for Royals versus Tigers this evening. Michael Walk on the bump. We'll preview that game coming up in a little bit. We've also got our 580 Sports Talk headlines and our playoff roundup from last night coming up here in just a few. And with the new College Football 25 video game coming out soon, within the next couple months, who are the players that deserve the highest ratings from KU and K-State football? We'll get to that. We'd love your opinion on that as well coming up in this final hour of the show. You are invited to be a part of the program on the Top City Metal Supply text line. 785-272-9429 is the text line number. And, of course, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube as well. I would love to tell you guys that I have developed an incredible power. At the end of our first segment today, I said that we were going to talk about Matt Sauer and how it was going to be hard to keep him on the roster, even though he was a Rule 5 guy. And as I was teasing that going into the commercial break, Dan informed me that Matt Sauer had been designated for assignment by the Kansas City Royals. We talked literally last segment, right before the news break, about Javon Small, who had committed to West Virginia but had not yet signed and was hearing from other programs, likely including KU. And then until he signed, he was still on the market. 18 minutes ago, so before I had seen this tweet, Javon Small signed with the with the West Virginia Mountaineers, leaving Oklahoma State.
How about that?
He is now off the table. So it's either Jackson Smith or Jackson Robinson or nobody for KU for that last spot. But that clears things up. That's nice. This is an incredible power. This is a more useful power than the time I said, dang, we really need an injury in this Royals game to slow it down. And then Lucas Giolito for the White Sox immediately got hurt. That was a much more evil power that I had no control over.
Wasn't his arm, right? Like he tweaked the hammy.
And for what it's worth, and you were there in the room when this happened.
I was.
I said I didn't want anything serious. I just wanted something mild so it would slow down the game, get the trainers out, walk it off, take a couple practice pitches. We'd be fine. He did leave the game, and I think may have gone on the injured list. But it was nothing too serious. Just pulled the hamstring a little bit. Ended up being okay. This is a much less useful, but also much less evil power that I have discovered today, apparently. All right, let's get to our 580 Sports Talk headlines for the day. Plenty to get to, and the first one that I want to get to for today involves a local prep product and one of the best athletes I've covered in the last several years here in the city of Topeka, and he is the newest member of the Washburn football and track teams. Trey Richardson, the former JUCO All-American at Hutch Community College this past year, the former All-County, All-City, and All-State pick for Highland Park football. He committed yesterday to play for Craig Schurig and Washburn football. He will also be joining the Washburn track team. We know Trey as a phenomenal player for the Highland Park football and basketball teams when he was in high school. He also ran track and was a state qualifier for Highland Park. He also played baseball for the Scots for a couple of years as well. Just a sensational athlete, unbelievable speed. He had committed to Toledo earlier on this offseason after completing the year at Hutch Community College, but then decided he wanted to come back and play a little bit closer to home and also go somewhere where he could also compete in track. And Washburn was that place. I'm super excited for Trey that he gets to be home in front of his community back here in Topeka.
Also has a young son here in Topeka that he gets to be around for as well. That's a pretty neat thing. That's part of his calculus as well. So
yeah, I know family means a lot to him. He's a great kid. I've been lucky enough to get to interview him a couple of times. Obviously got to see the vast majority of his high school career, and just very happy for him, happy for the Highland Park community that they'll get to root for one of their own at Washburn next year. And I will tell you this right now, Trenton, you and I were talking about this earlier. He is and I was talking to Greg Kakagi about this too. He is going to make an immediate impact for Washburn. I know last year was a tough one for Craig Schurig's group for Washburn football, but immediately you put Trey Richardson and DJ Bell on the field at the same time. That is as much speed as anybody in the conference is going to have on offense at any given time. Trey will return kicks as well, I would imagine, for the Ichabod. So really cool for Trey. And awesome pickup for Craig Sherrick and Washburn.
Yeah, vroom, vroom. I can't wait to see what that looks like at Yager Stadium, him and DJ Bell on the same field. That's going to be a lot of fun to scheme some things up and see what they can accomplish on offense. And for somebody, Trey's always really wanted to represent good things for his community out at Highland Park and for his hometown. And now he'll get to play his college ball here in his hometown and get back into the track game, which is so funny.
It is funny.
Never have I ever heard or read a high school athlete who was outstanding in a given sport say, yeah, I actually kind of hate it.
Yeah. We talked about that with pistol. We talked about that with Trey even. He said, yeah, and track's not really my thing, but I'm good at it. So I do it. And
realized he missed it.
Yeah. Over at topsports.news. And we'll talk about this with Rick Peterson coming up on Thursday's show. But he said that he pistoled his write up about this. And Trey said, yeah, I kind of, it was never my thing, but I kind of missed it. I kind of missed running. And I'm glad Washburn's going to give him that chance. That is an awesome athlete who's going to help both Washburn track and football immediately coming up next season. So very happy for Trey.
First headline for me, 30-year-old Xander Schauffele is a major champion for the first time in his professional golf career. Xander shoots a 65 and birdies the par 5 18th to beat Bryson DeChambeau by a stroke at the PGA Championship at Valhalla Golf Course in Louisville, Kentucky over the weekend. The 21 under par score for Schauffele is a new record for a major championship. DeChambeau finishing as the runner-up, one shot back at 20 under. Victor Hovland solo third at 18 under par. Thomas Detry and Colin Morikawa 15 under, rounding out the top five. Gary Woodland tied for 60th, shot a 71 on Thursday, a 69 on Friday. We had mentioned he birdied 4 of the last 5 holes to get inside the cut line, then played on Saturday at even par 71 and shot a 2 under 69 on Sunday for a 4-round score of 4 under 280. So Gary Woodland playing the weekend at the PGA. Dramatic finish, certainly a little preposterous to see somebody score 21 under par in a major championship. Yeah. I like my majors to be a little bit tougher on the golfers, but drama is drama, and it was a dramatic back nine as Schauffele looked to have given away the lead. Hovland was the solo leader for about 15 minutes after Xander bogeyed the par 5 10th, but he hit 2 great shots into 11 and 12 to birdie those holes, and then kept it in neutral the rest of the way, knowing that all he would have to do was birdie 18 to win, and he did, making a 6-foot putt to clinch his first major championship.
Do you know the best score to par at a major championship for Tiger Woods in his career? The best golfer of our lifetimes?
I think it was, did he go to 20 under at one of the PGAs he won?
He did not.
Okay. I'm trying to. Was it 17 at the Masters? He was 17 under at Augusta the year he won it, I think.
No, also not that. He was 19 under with an 8-stroke win at the 2000 Open Championship.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
He was 18 under 4 different times. That's outrageous.
Yeah.
But yes, I believe you were thinking of his 18 under at the 97 Masters.
Yes. 97 Masters. 18 under.
I feel like LeBron right now. But I just have the list right in front of me.
Yeah. Opening up the golf Wikipedia. No, a good tournament. Happy for Xander, who had 12 previous top 10s in majors without winning one, and was kind of feeling like he was starting to assume that title that nobody wants, which is best player not to have won a major. That is no longer his cross to bear.
Who is that now?
Probably Hovland.
Okay. I thought he had won one.
No, he won the FedEx Cup last year.
That must be what I'm thinking of.
I also want to note that Scotty Scheffler finished in a tie for 8th at 13 under par. So a top 10 finish for Scheffler, derailed after going to jail on Friday and still managing to shoot a 66. I think the adrenaline wore off a little bit on Friday. Yeah, he shot the 66. Saturday, maybe the adrenaline wore off a bit. He shot a 2 over par 73. That was his first time over par in a PGA Tour event in 42 rounds. And of course, he rebounded with a 65 on Sunday to finish tied for 8th.
The 8 in his finish. Same number of years he's going to get in prison. That felon.
That overzealous cop is going to cost Scheffler the Grand Slam.
Yes.
You see his trial was pushed back to
Yes,
June
they
3rd.
pushed back. He's never going to trial.
Yeah, he's getting arraigned for
Yes,
what?
They
For torn pants?
for the $80 pants damaged beyond repair.
Come
He is
on.
never stepping foot in a Louisville courtroom. I can promise you that. They delay the arraignment to June 3rd.
That's got to just be to give extra time to get it thrown out, right?
Yeah, like, can I go on FanDuel and bet on the arraignment being canceled? Like minus 12,000 odds.
That might be offshore. I might know a website where you can find that.
Might be a Bovada
That might
line.
be Bovada's probably got that one. But Xander's, is he do we like him? Is he one of the good guys?
You know, he is.
Okay.
Xander's one of the good guys. He is generally a pretty likable. All the players like him. Like, he's kind of the stoic type on the golf course, but all the players think he's a great locker room guy. They think he's really amusing. The odd part was the crowd was very pro Bryson. Bryson's popular now. The big golfer is popular now.
He was popular with me this weekend when he bullied that autograph nerd.
That may have been part of it. Yeah. May also be his 600,000 YouTube subscribers and everything. But like, he's actually kind of fun to watch play golf. Like, he's very emotive and he hits the ball the farthest. And like, he's a show. And it's too bad that if you want to watch him, you have to know where the CW is and when Liv is playing. And that's a real shame, because he is a lot of fun to watch play golf. And it was a fun little duel. He made a tough 10-foot putt for par or for birdie on 18 to take the lead or to tie for the lead and put the pressure on Schauffele down the stretch. And he celebrated with really awkward, endearing, like, leap into the air, Phil Mickelson-esque a little bit. The crowd was very pro Bryson. We've come a long way from fans yelling Brooksy at him derisively about 3-4 years ago. So no, fun tournament, fun winner. The next major, of course, is next month's U.S. Open.
My first headline is we're getting a Sunflower Showdown tomorrow morning.
Yes.
In baseball, as the Big 12 baseball tournament field was set after KU was swept over the weekend by number 24 Texas. And I believe K-State won 2 out of 3 against BYU, if I'm not mistaken. But they finished tied for 6th in the Big 12 standings. Well, K-State won the series 2-1 earlier in the year, so they get the 6th. K-State won the series 2-1 earlier in the season, so they get the 6th spot. KU gets the 7th spot, which means they'll play each other tomorrow, 9 a.m. in the first round in Game 1 of the Big 12 tournament. The winner of that game, if West Virginia were to lose in the next game, would play Thursday.
Yeah,
but if they win, then they're going to play. Whoever wins most likely is going to play Wednesday afternoon, while the game loser will play again the next morning at 9 a.m.
Yes, it's a very convoluted double elimination tournament here. It's not just the bracket is not especially simple to follow. Man, KU this weekend just took back-to-back kicks in the nads in 2 consecutive games in which they came back.
They went to extras
to lead going into the final inning, the final home half of the inning, only for Texas to walk them off. Just brutal for KU's chances of making the NCAA tournament. Probably not going to happen at this point. K-State, I know.
Got 2 out of 3 from BYU over the weekend. They were 1 out away from a sweep on Saturday, but couldn't finish the deal.
I know Pete Hughes had comments after yesterday's game, senior day, and said, was talking about their resume and whatnot. I would be stunned, regardless of what happens in Arlington. I would be stunned if they do not make the tournament this year. I think K-State is in. They probably would have liked to have picked up a couple more wins over the course of the Big 12 season, but look at the RPI, look at who they played non-conference. They should be in the NCAA tournament at this point. That'll be fun, though. A little breakfast baseball tomorrow.
Yeah, right here on 580 WIBW, we'll have the Sunflower Showdown for you, K-State and KU, and any other Big 12 tournament coverage that does not conflict with Royals baseball. We'll bring you here on 580 WIBW.
One more quick headline for me before we get to the playoff roundup. Another Major League Baseball player has been ensnared in the gambling scandal that also involves the former and longtime interpreter for Shohei Ohtani, Ipe Mizuhara, David Fletcher, who you may have heard of in the last couple of years. He has, now MLB has opened an investigation into allegations that Fletcher gambled with an illegal bookie, a source told ESPN. But investigators face a significant hurdle at the start, which includes where they're going to get the evidence. That's the writing of ESPN investigative reporter TJ Quinn. Fletcher, according to reports, is good friends with Shohei Ohtani from their time with the Angels. So if you're buddies with Shohei Ohtani from his time with the Angels, that probably means you are also around Ipe Mizuhara quite a bit. Fletcher's close friend, Colby Schultz, a former minor leaguer, also bet with Matthew Boyer, the illegal bookie who was taking large sums of money in wagers from Ipe Mizuhara. According to the writing of TJ Quinn, so Fletcher's friend bet with Boyer and bet on baseball, including on Angels games that Fletcher played in while he was with the team. MLB's source told TJ Quinn, quote, government cooperation will be crucial in a case like this where we don't have evidence. Well, if I'm Major League Baseball, I might just wait for the government to handle their business because you'll get the info. That will all be made public.
Yeah,
and you can make your call beyond that.
The feds aren't worried about the reputation or baseball career of David Fletcher. No. And frankly, I don't know that Major League Baseball is either. Fletch had a nice little 2-year run as like a scrappy little middle infielder, top of the order guy there for the Angels, but now playing in AAA in the Braves organization.
The Braves will drop him like a bad habit. They have to.
He's a Gwinnett Striper these days. That's the name of the AAA affiliate.
They've got such good minor league names in that system.
Yeah, they
so
do.
Many good ones. The Stripers, the Rome Emperors, and their logo is penguins in Rome, Georgia. Awesome.
Yeah,
sick.
Brand new this year.
Yeah.
That reminds me, I need to find like a hat or something.
Yeah.
One of the best ones going.
It's dope.
The Rome Emperors.
But yes, I mean, would you be surprised if there was another former Angel who got tangled up in this?
No, I wouldn't. And also, like, the more of Ohtani's buddies who get involved in this stuff, it gets a little bit harder to believe that Ohtani didn't have at least a little bit to do with all of this.
That's the thing for me. Like, I don't necessarily doubt the feds finding that he was innocent or, wasn't gambling. I don't doubt that. But I do kind of doubt that he had no clue.
Yeah, like the more it's people around him, the more, like, do I think that in the end Ohtani did anything that impugned the integrity of baseball, like bet on baseball, bet on anything else, anything that should have him suspended or fined? No, I'm good with that conclusion. But the conclusion of he had no idea and was just a naif about the whole thing, like, no, like I'm starting to doubt that a little bit.
I agree with you.
All right, it's that time.
It's time for the 580 Sports Talk Playoff Roundup.
Spreading this one all weekend. We'll start where there's action tonight. The last of the semifinals in the NHL will be settled tonight. Game 7 in Vancouver between the Canucks and the Edmonton Oilers to determine the final conference finalists. No Brock Besser for Vancouver tonight, one of their best players. He is out with an illness, and that is a substantial blow to Vancouver's hopes of winning the series. The winner will take on the Dallas Stars, who eliminated the Colorado Avalanche in their Western Conference semifinal with a double overtime win in Game 6 in Denver on Friday night. The Eastern Conference semis, or rather the Eastern Conference finals, are set. They will be between the Florida Panthers and the New York Rangers, each of whom won their respective semifinals in 6 games. Of the 5 teams remaining in the NHL playoffs, including the 2 teams that will play tonight, the most recent Stanley Cup victory belongs to the Dallas Stars, who won their only cup in 1999. Brett Hull skating the crease against Buffalo. The New York Rangers last won a Stanley Cup in 1994. Edmonton last won a cup in their great dynastic run in 1990. Florida and Vancouver have never won a Stanley Cup. So some long-suffering fan base, relatively speaking, is going to experience the glory of a Stanley Cup championship in the NHL.
I was very surprised by the way that Game 6 ended. I thought Vancouver was I thought they had all the vibes, and they were just going to be able to put away Edmonton. I was very surprised by the way that game ended. Now I feel like Edmonton is going to come away with a win.
Yeah, sort of feels like, in a Game 7, best player tends to help you advance, and Edmonton has that, no question, with Connor McDavid. It's getting to an if not now win point for Edmonton.
Big narrative game tonight. Big game for narratives.
They've only been to one conference final with this group that involves not just McDavid, who's a multi-time MVP, but also Leon Draisaitl, who's won an MVP. So, if not now, when for Edmonton? They've got to find a way, even though they're on the road tonight. Meanwhile, in the NBA, how about this quirk? In the last 11 NBA Game 7s, the road teams are 8-3.
That's wild.
Go figure that. Indiana and Minnesota each winning Game 7s in enemy buildings yesterday. Indiana beating the Knicks, Minnesota knocking out the defending champion Nuggets. So the conference finals are set. Boston and Indiana in the East, Minnesota and Dallas in the West. Two teams left who have never won. One team with 2 titles, that's Dallas. One team with 17 titles, that is Boston. Those series start respectively on I don't know and none of my business.
Dallas has 1 title.
No, they got 2. Oh no, you're right. Yep. Just
they played
one.
for another.
Yeah. They were up 2-0 on Miami and didn't finish it in 06. That's my bad. Good catch. One team with 18 titles between the 4 semifinals, 4 conference finalists.
What's the stat about Wayne Gretzky and his brother?
Hank and Tommy Aaron have the most home runs of any sibling combination. So Boston, Indiana in the East, Minnesota, Dallas in the West.
I think we will end up with Boston versus Minnesota in all likelihood. I think Dallas has a chance, though. I really do think Dallas has a chance.
They're playing.
I think that's going to go 7, and the team that helps the most is the Boston Celtics.
Yeah. Like this is for Boston. You have to feel like, okay, you talk about if not now, when. This is a core that's been to a bunch of conference finals. They are playing an Indiana team that they should beat handily. And that's no disrespect to Indiana. Boston's just better. Boston was streets ahead of any team in the Eastern Conference, and they should win that series, no problem. I think Minnesota's going to handle Dallas. I think that 5 games at most. I think that's going to be a walk. I think the Minnesota already beat the best team they were going to play, maybe in the entire postseason, and I think they'll handle Dallas. I don't think PJ Washington is going to shoot like Klay Thompson for the rest of the series. Let me level with you folks real quick before we finish with the playoff roundup. Number one, obviously, I'm very sad, very disappointed. That was of all the sports weekends in my life, that was one I would like to forget. I think the Avalanche and Nuggets going combined 1-6 at Ball Arena in the second round of these playoffs is going to stay with me for a very long time, or at the very least for like a week or so, and make me sick to my stomach when I think about it. Proud of the way the Nuggets went out. They went out like champs. They went out on their shields. They were just gassed. You could tell in the fourth quarter of that game, like they couldn't, like Jokic couldn't move. Murray couldn't move. Like they were just out on their feet and had punched themselves out as the series went on. They've got to regroup. They've got the big important stuff ready for another run later on. But it's a disappointing way to have the season end. The one team I thought would beat Denver in a series or could even do it, did it. And it took their best to do it. Yeah. And I tip my cap to Minnesota. I just wish Denver had played their best in that series. And I don't believe they ever got to their best basketball for a variety of reasons. Also, we have been fortunate in the 3-year history of the playoff roundup. In the previous 2 years of the playoff roundup, I have gotten to talk about one team involved, A, being a team I root for, and B, winning a championship. Again, I'm just going to keep it real with y'all. They could play the conference finals in my living room, and I'm not sure I would watch a second. So these are about to get a lot less involved moving forward, unless you guys want to tag in for some playoff roundup action, because I'm not going to be breaking down a whole lot of Minnesota Dallas, other than let me know if somebody punches that smug, arrogant jackass Anthony Edwards in the chin.
I knew at one point we would hear that you maybe weren't the biggest fan of the Ant-Man. I had a hunch.
I think he's a prick. I do. He definitely strikes me as somebody who has never been punched in the face. And we all know people like that who've never been punched in the face and could just use one good one, just one right up under the chin to kind of make you think twice about the way you act. Just one. I don't think Luka's going to give it to him.
No.
Luka would do it and then complain about getting called for a foul.
Yes, that's correct.
Singularly unpleasant player, Luka Doncic. Just great player. Wholly I don't like any of the players in that series. Not a one of them.
I think Luka's extremely pleasant to watch when he has the ball in his hand.
Yeah.
I think when he's got the ball, physically controlling the basketball, I think he is awesome to watch. The problem is whenever he doesn't have the ball in his hand, he's crying to a referee. That's always what he's doing when he does not have the ball in his hand.
The least ethical hooper remaining, Luka Doncic.
The game last night, I thought the big difference was, and like normally Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic, that's one of the best two-man combos in the entire NBA, if not the very best. It's got the best player overall.
They scored 69 points. If you told me they were going to combine for 69, I would have said, oh, man,
yeah,
we're in the clear. Then if you told me they'd combine for 10 assists, I would say, ooh.
There's the thing.
That's not great.
I thought Minnesota had more role players step up.
Yes, 100%.
CB was out there for some big stretches in the second half. I thought he was fine, but let's also be realistic about what CB is for the Denver Nuggets this season. He's not the guy who's going to go get you 18 off the bench.
No.
He's just not.
No, they lack that. They didn't have as many role players that were able to step up. It was a bad matchup. Like, at the end of the day, what it comes down to is that team was built specifically to beat Denver. And they had to play their best to do it, and they deserve all the credit for that. They were built for that. They were built for that matchup. They were built to make it a hard matchup for Denver, and they did. And part of me does hope they win the title. It's just if you're going to you want to be the man, you got to beat the man.
Well, we did lose to the champion.
Yeah, it has happened 2 of the last 3 times the Nuggets got bounced for the playoffs. The last 3 times the Nuggets lost in the playoffs, it was to the Western Conference champs. So it wouldn't surprise me, honestly. But also, no new rings and screw Anthony Edwards. So go Celtics.
It's like the KU Villanova thing. Every time they play each other in the NCAA tournament, the winner wins the national title.
It's true.
Much more fun in 22 than it was in 18 and 16.
That's your playoff roundup. It sucked.
And that'll do it for our 580 Sports Talk headlines. When we come back, in the new college football video game, who should be the highest rated players for KU and K-State? We'll debate next on 580 Sports Talk. kill. 536 on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan, Dan, and Spencer here with you. Thanks for hanging out with us on the program today. I was inspired to ask this question by Michael Swain, who tweeted it and then posted something over at fog.net about it. We'll talk to Michael on the show tomorrow for Jayhawk Weekly. But he asked, who should be the KU player with the highest rating in the incoming College Football 25 video game? And he wrote about it. And I think this is an easier question for KU than it is for K-State. I think there's more debate when it comes to the K-State players. If you were to ask me, like, give me the top 3 who in the video game should have the highest rating. People do this with Madden every year, but now we have a college football game back. I think it's in some order, and I would put them in this order probably. Like Devin Neal, Kobe Bryant, Jalen Daniels. Jalen's durability would be like a 20. But other than that, like those are I think your 3 clear best players on this team going into this year.
I can't really even argue with you. They're nothing, I don't think, to argue.
Honestly, the next argument, I think the next 3 players might be the receivers. I think Skinner, Arnold, Grimm in some order might be the next 3. Michael ordered them Arnold, Skinner, Grimm. I'd put Grimm second. You know how much I love Luke Grimm. I will always love Luke Grimm.
This is a pro Luke Grimm
Always has been. But yeah, like that. Those 3 to me are clearly the top 3 for KU. And I would put Devin first. Kobe's awesome, and Jalen Daniels is obviously a stud with the injury concerns. Obviously, part of it too. But I'd put Devin Neal number 1. K-State, I think, is kind of interesting because I think you could go in a whole lot of different directions here. And you've lost a handful of the mainstays from the last few seasons. You know, Cooper Beebe would have been number 1. Cooper Beebe would have been a 90 overall in the base package of the game.
Yeah.
But you've lost some of those defensive standouts from recent years. And you don't have, Deuce has been gone for a couple years now, but there's no, wow, Tyler Lockett. There's no receiver like that, or Ben Sinnott's gone. So I'm curious who would be the highest for K-State, the highest rated player.
I think probably Giddens.
Or to be Dylan Edwards.
Yeah.
Nah, I don't think it'd be Edwards. I think it'd be Giddens. And Edwards might be second, to be honest with you.
I can see that.
Trying to think of who else. Marcus Siegel could have a good rating.
You can see that.
You're getting into some of the defensive guys.
Mm-hmm.
They do have to replace a lot. They don't have like those. Like, I'll be curious what this really is. Like, if you want to take this out of the virtual world,
mm-hmm.
like what you're really talking about is, okay, who are the guys that are going to get like preseason honors for K-State? Who are going to be the guys who have that like all Big 12?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a hard list to come up with.
Because I think all the talking about Edwards, talking about Giddens, obviously talking about Avery Johnson. There's a handful of other guys on the offense too. I think you can make a legitimate argument that the ceiling is super high for tons of these dudes. I know, last year there were some questions about the depth in the defensive backfield, but I think the ceiling for some of those guys is really high. I just don't think they are there yet at this point. So I think that is the big question.
Like maybe like Jacob Parrish. Like, I'm trying to think of some guys who are back, played well last year.
Panzer?
Chase Brown had a good freshman year.
Yeah, he did have a very good freshman year.
I'd be interested to see where they rate Avery Johnson.
Yeah, that's the other question too.
Because obviously he didn't get that much run last year, but wasn't he the MVP of the Pop-Tart Bowl?
He was, he was incredible.
So,
in the Pop-Tart Bowl.
How much do you put on a bowl game, and how much do you put on what everybody's saying about him after spring ball?
No, I think that's a really good question. I'm also very curious where he goes.
Austin Moore probably have a pretty good rating.
I thought he might be one
Austin
too.
Moore, VJ Payne.
I don't know if he'd be in your top 3. You know who's probably near the top of the list? Speak his own.
I was going to say,
Purnell.
are you going to say Desmond Purnell?
I think Desmond Purnell's going to be up there.
Desmond Purnell was super last year. Yeah.
Man, what a cool story. We've talked about this on the show before, and we've had Desmond on too, but we talked about this a lot last season. He was awesome at Hayden. He was so good at Hayden. But I thought he might play for K-State. I think be a special teamer, get on the field a bit, maybe sub packages early. He'll probably play plenty by senior year. man, he was incredible last season. He was one of the best players on that defense last season. And so I'm super impressed by him and just happy that he's been able to carve that out. That's the interesting thing, though, for this K-State team this year is I feel like, again, so many guys who have a high ceiling, so many guys you look at them and say, I expect they are going to be a major impact player. There's just a lot of them that you sort of have to say, I need to see it first. And as long as we see it from a good portion of those guys, this is going to be a really good team. But then again, it all kind of comes down to the quarterback. There's the other question when it comes to Avery Johnson. How much of K-State's success is going to be based on his individual success? Like, is this a you go, we go situation? I don't necessarily think it is fully, but I think to reach, do we think we can get one of those last spots in the playoff? Do we think we can win the Big 12? Mm-hmm. I think it does indeed depend on how good he can be in his first year as a starter.
Yeah, they can be a really good team without him being like a top 3 quarterback in the Big 12 because I think their running game is going to be outstanding. I think they're going to be creative enough on offense. They're going to make some things happen. Mm-hmm. I think the offensive line will come together, even though they don't maybe have quite as much experience as a typical year. I think they're going to be able to put together a good front five that works well together. I think the coaching staff, Connor Riley, they get enough credit from me. They get enough, equity with me that I believe they'll put together a good offensive line. But the ceiling for Avery Johnson, if he's able to hit that ceiling as a first-year starter, then you're talking about a team that plays for a Big 12 championship.
Yeah. No disagreement from me. The offense, I think, is going to be really good, and it's going to be really
it's going to be fun.
It is going to be fun, and I think it's a situation where, more so in football today with how spread out things are, how easy it is to pass the ball, you're opening up the run game by being able to throw it all over because you want what? Light boxes. You want favorable matchups, fewer guys you have to block. I think K-State is probably going to open up. It's going to be a little bit more old school. They're not going to look old school necessarily all the time. But I think the fact that you've got a quarterback with good legs, you've got Dylan Edwards, you've got DJ Giddens, these dudes who can run, they can run with power, they can bounce it to the outside, all of these different options, that is going to draw in heavier boxes. You're going to have defensive backs playing closer to the line of scrimmage, which hopefully opens things up downfield for the passing game a little bit. Interesting comments. One from Jason here from YouTube, who says, in terms of the, who's going to be rated the highest, if you want to just base it on hype, Avery Johnson's probably going to be right up there. He has gotten a ton of national attention. We talked about it last week or 2 weeks ago. It was 2 weeks ago now. He's got the best odds of anyone in the Big 12 to win the Heisman. Yeah. That's legitimate national attention. So yeah, if you're basing it just in terms of hype, I think you probably have to put Avery in that list. It's very different. I think both KU and K-State are going to be good, possibly really good this year. But it's this KU team that has so many nailed on guys. You know who the contributors are going to be right now. You know who it's going to be offensively. You know who it's going to be defensively. K-State, you know a few of them, but I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity in the first few weeks of the season to really have certain guys, wide receivers, defensive backs, linebackers especially, kind of set themselves apart as who the contributors will be come Big 12 play. Royals baseball is coming up with pregame at the top of the hour. We'll get you ready for the opener against the Tigers with our game preview next on 580 Sports Talk. One last real quick comment here from Jason on YouTube regarding the K-State conversation. Says, is it fair to compare K-State to maybe an old school run and shoot offense? I think there's going to be some similarities. Sure.
Yeah.
When you think about run and shoot, you think about being like really wide open, 4 or 5 wide receivers. I don't think it's going to be quite that. I think there's still going to very much be a team that establishes the run to set up the pass. Like, it's an old school mentality, but it's what K-State football's always been.
I think it's going to look a little more like spread option almost.
Yeah. Like Pat White, Steve Slayton era, West Virginia. A little bit of Rich Rodriguez spread and shred.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a little more of that in this offense, which is terrifying.
Got the personnel to do it. There's no doubt about that.
You got to be able to block on the edges, which is where losing some of your star linemen from the last couple of years who have been so good, KT Leviston became a really solid anchor for your offensive line last year. You lose him. Are you able to do some of that outside stuff? And we'll find that out pretty easy in the season. One final NBA note. We were talking NBA playoffs a little bit earlier on in the hour in the playoff roundup. Jayhawker on YouTube says, pulling for the Celtics and Svi Mikhailuk to win the title.
He is on that team, isn't he?
He is. He wears 50. Gross number for a three-point shooter.
Well, to be fair,
he's also roster guy, like 12th out of 12 on the roster.
The Celtics, man, they got so many retired numbers.
That's true.
And
cool to see Svi win.
And Marcus Smart out there wearing number 36 for all those years. Like, they got a ton of retired numbers. They're like the Yankees of basketball.
No, that's true. Couple KU guys who are still left. Is it Markeith who's in Dallas? I think it's Markeith who's in Dallas.
I couldn't tell you.
It's one of the Morris brothers I know is in Dallas.
Markeith.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, a couple KU guys who are still left in the NBA playoffs. Tonight, Royals series opener against the Detroit Tigers. It'll be Michael Wacha on the mound for the boys in blue. Reese Olson is going for the Tigers tonight.
Reese Olson's really good. He's got a top 10 ERA in all of baseball, 2.09 earned run average. Gentlemen, what number do you think is higher? The number of home runs allowed by Reese Olson this season, or the number of wins Reese Olson has?
Well, he seems very good. And if his ERA is that low.
Yeah, I think it has to be wins. No.
Trick question. The number is 0 for both of them. He's 0-4 with a 2.09 ERA and has yet to allow a home run.
That's crazy. Wow. That is wild. Here's another fact for you.
Wins are stupid.
That's crazy.
Correct. In fact, I just found out. Do you know what Bobby Witt Jr.'s career batting average against Reese Olson is?
I do not.
571.
How many
pounds this man?
4 for 7?
Yeah, I believe it is 4 for 7. Yeah, but neither has been around all that long, all things considered. This is kind of a fun matchup. I'd like to see the Royals, if they can continue some of this momentum, if they can take great series against a lesser team in the A's, go up against a better team, but you're still at home. Continue some of this momentum. Build on that. Don't just let it be beating up on the crappy teams. Let this be, hey, we're better than that. Well, who was it? RJ Anderson from CBS Sports, who wrote, the Royals have kind of buoyed themselves against bad teams. But make a little bit of an impression here. Turn some heads. Say, hey, it's not just the bad teams we're beating up. I'd like to see them come out and win this series. And like we talked about earlier on the show, stacking wins before the end of the month is a big deal with how rough the next few weeks in June are.
Yeah.
That schedule gets much more difficult once this month ends, or, final day of the month as well, when you start that series against the Padres. So I am really looking forward to this series. I hope it's a positive one for the Royals, and especially looking forward to the finale on Wednesday. That is going to be a blast. Tark Skubal, Cole Reagans, that one's going to be a whole lot of fun. And we'll give some tickets away to it coming up on tomorrow's show. Well, a family 4-pack of Royals tickets to give away tomorrow for the finale. It'll be a day game on Wednesday, the finale against the Tigers. Michael Swain is going to join us for Jayhawk Weekly. Obviously, we'll have plenty of basketball transfer portal to get to, more Chiefs and more Royals to get to as well coming up tomorrow from 2 to 6 right here on 580 Sports Talk. Right now, though, we have to get to one final commercial break. We'll come on back. We'll wrap up this edition of 580 Sports Talk with the final word after this. Fun show today on 580 Sports Talk. If you missed any of it, head to 580wibw.com. You can check out the podcasts tab. That's where you'll find out the show broken down hour by hour. You can also head over to YouTube, 580 Sports Talk. The show will be cataloged as soon as it is done, along with all of our other past 580 Sports Talk episodes. Right now, though, time for the final word. Dan, you're first.
Fun weekend at Kauffman Stadium. The 2014 pennant winners were back in town, and they got to see a series sweep for the Royals against the A's. 10 games over 500 for the first time since 2015. I don't need to remind you what the Royals did in 2015. Now, do I? This team is rolling. They've got a chance at a winning homestand and a really great homestand if they can pull off another series win against a Detroit team that struggled a bit. It's a big chance to take care of some business in the Central. It starts tonight behind Michael Wacha.
Yeah, it does start behind Wacha. If they can win tonight, they'll notch win number 30. They notched win number 30 last year, July 28th. It's all about improvement, folks. Even if they don't finish the season on the pace they are, an improving ball club each year is going to get things going every single year.
I saw this on Twitter yesterday. I want to go make sure I know where this came from. This is from Tyler Dreiling on Twitter yesterday. The Royals can lose their next 53 games and will still have a better record than they did at the same point last season. This team is good. They're not just like, yeah, they're whatever. No, this is a good team. Are they flawed? Yes. Could they use some roster improvements? Yes. Would I like to see maybe Drew Waters get a shot to come up to the big league club and see if he can keep swinging a hot bat like he has in Omaha? Yes, I would like to see that. But that doesn't mean this is a bad team. In fact, it's quite a good team with a good rotation, some superstar talent at the top. And I really hope they can continue some of that fun momentum from the weekend tonight when they open a series against the Detroit Tigers. Pre-game coverage is starting here in just about 2.5 minutes at the top of the hour. First pitch is set for 6:40 tonight here on 580 WIBW. We're back with more sports talk tomorrow from 2 to 6. Until then, for Dan Lucero, for Spencer Dupuis, and Trenton Kraxner, I'm Brendan Dworzinski. Talk to you then back here on 580 Sports Talk.